However, for FBA listings, you do actually need to list them on Amazon Seller Central prior, or it'll take a little bit longer. So the way you actually go ahead and add that to your inventory if you're listing a new item into your store is over on Amazon Seller Central. You go ahead and get that listed by hitting add products, then putting that ASIN in and waiting for it to go ahead and show right here. We can use that same search capability right here as well, right? So say we want to do like a Stafford listing, for example. Once again, we go and see one of my ones that's in my inventory right here. We can see this was already listed, right? So to do this, you have to already have it listed in your Amazon account, which comes from actually listing it on Amazon Seller Central, which is a part of recent Amazon update. Now we can actually add multiple listings to this batch right here. We're just going to do one specifically right here. Go ahead and add this in. And now we want to go ahead and price this right here. We could take a look at the other pricing. However, I am a fan of just doing it 25% above the buy box right there. We can go ahead and add in our purchase cost as well. Then we can do our quantity. Say we do like 20 units, for example, right here for a basic FBA test order. Our supplier right here, we'll go ahead and do, we can do, any different suppliers, right? You can go ahead and add into your account. Do JCPenney. Our date purchased, very similar to FBM, we'll go ahead here. Then our expiration date, this is obviously only needed if there is an expiration date for that item. If for whatever reason it's asking for an expiration date, like required for a product, and you don't see it on the actual product, you can go ahead and just look it up on Google or hit up the manufacturer as well. And then prep category, we can go ahead and add this in right here. Prep owner, seller, label owner, seller as well. I don't recommend having Amazon do that. You are going to incur an additional fee. Would really only recommend and go ahead and actually do that if you're just really time constrained. For example, we can see prep owner, seller, label owner, seller. That means we're going to prep and label our products here. And then we'll go ahead and add to the shipment right here. Like I was saying, you can do multiple products per batch. We're just going to do one right here. Now we just need to go ahead and hit continue right here. And then we're going to actually submit this data off to Amazon. So now we have to wait for that data actually to go ahead and submit to Amazon, which can take a sec because obviously Boxham's just communicating with Amazon to go ahead and get this product listed. So we'll wait for this to go ahead and go through. Okay, there we go. So now it's in here. And now step 2, guys, this is where we're actually going to go ahead and assign this product to the different boxes right here as well. So say we're doing 2 different boxes, for example, we just want to go ahead and create first box right here. And then we can do like, 2 boxes, for example. Then we can go ahead and hit the dimensions and weight. So we'll just go ahead and hit dimensions and weight so we can assign the dimensions and weight to these boxes right here. Obviously, 2 boxes of t-shirts wouldn't weigh 40 pounds. They probably weigh more like 10 pounds. For example, right here, we can go ahead and update that and then do the same thing for this guy as well right here too. Boxem connects right to your printer, so it makes it nice and easy. And now we can go ahead and print the F and SKU labels right here as well. So we can go ahead and hit print on those labels right here. So now we can see the F and SKU labels. When you're doing FBM, you don't need any fancy labels right here, but when you're doing FBA, you are going to need to put the F and SKU labels over the barcode or the poly mailer. So when we're doing FBA, we are going to need to put the F and SKU labels over the poly bag or the barcode on the specific product right here. So we go ahead and print those out. So then we'll just go ahead and assign. You could do bulk assign right here, but I do want to show you guys what assign looks like as well. We can go ahead and put 10 units and 10 units right here, and then we can go ahead and boom, and then they're automatically going to hop into those boxes right there. Other shipment softwares have you do like a bunch like confusing drag and dropping, which is really easy. We can go ahead and print those F and SKUs as well. You can also set up to automatically print those F and SKUs too. Then we'll just want to go ahead and hit continue to hop on to section 3 as well by hitting submit packing groups right here. Now that data is just submitting off to Amazon right here, so it's going to load for a little while right here as well. So now we can see, guys, Amazon's giving us 3 different options for the shipment right here. Typically, it makes sense to do the cheapest option in terms of total cost. For example, right here, sometimes you'll get split shipments, right, which might give you less of a fee, for example, right here, but you just got to figure out which specific option makes the most sense. We can see I'm shipping this out from Florida, so my first option has a very cheap placement fee and low transportation fees for a total cost of 26 bucks, which is really, really cheap. This is also a very small shipment compared to what you're normally doing, so it makes sense the price per pound would be a little bit higher here. We can see 26 bucks for 20 pounds going to Homestead, Florida. Right here, option number 2 would be that same 2 boxes, 20 pounds going to Clarksville, Tennessee. It's obviously more expensive, so that wouldn't make sense to go ahead and do. And then the third option right here is $66 to New Mexico. Really, the only time it would make more sense to do the more expensive option would be on a bigger shipment where you already had inventory allocated to do a certain part of the country. Don't really worry about that though. All we need to do is go ahead and hit here, right here, the cheapest option, and then we'll go ahead and hit continue as well. We can see $26 for 20 pounds. Like I said, a little bit more expensive than what you'll typically see, but this is a very small shipment compared to what you'll normally be doing. On a small test order like this, typically you want to be doing FBM as a beginner. Now we can go ahead and hit confirm placement and accept shipping charges right here. Then we'll go ahead and submit this off and head to step 4 on the shipment flow. All right, guys, so now we're on step 4 right here. We can go ahead and finish off the shipment. For each box, you can go ahead and hit print box label right here. This is going to be that 2D barcode, which goes next to the shipping label for the specific item. So like I was saying, this tends to just make the check-in process a little bit smoother here. You can use the normal FBA box labels as well, using the $50 a month version of Boxum. I do like having the upgraded version to go ahead and hit those 2D barcodes. We can go ahead and pull that right here as well, and then go ahead and get that second box up right here, and we can see, we'll go ahead and see right here, box number 1, then we go ahead and see box number 2 right here, and then we can go ahead and hit print UPS and FBA box labels, or just the UPS ones right here as well. Then we go ahead and see those shipping labels that'll nicely correlate right here. So these go right next to each other on the boxes right here, and then the same one for box number 2. Right, and box number 2 right there. And then now we're good to go on this specific shipment for Amazon FBA right here. And that's the entire shipment process using Boxum, guys, which is significantly easier than Amazon Seller Central. For FBA, you just go ahead and list that product on Amazon Seller Central, wait for it to load in your inventory, and then you can go ahead and create that FBA shipment within Boxum. So nice and easy. It's a little bit confusing the first time you guys use it, but then it becomes second nature in subsequent times. All right, guys, so now you know what it looks like to actually ship products, both FBM and FBA. FBA being a little bit more complicated in terms of actually the shipping process, doing with like FNSKU labels, for example, different placements with Boxum, for example, and FBM, pretty simple. Literally just put the product in the poly mailer or the box when you get an order, slap that shipping label on there. I do want you to have full clarity around the pros and cons of FBA versus FBM and when both of them make sense. Specifically, long term, most people will do mainly FBA. However, when you're a complete beginner, I do think it makes a lot of sense to do some FBM as well. The main pros of FBM being just how fast you can get feedback from the market. So if you do FBA on a product, typically it's going to get to you from an OA retailer like 3 to 7 days later, and then it's not going to get to Amazon for like 1 to 3 weeks, for example, typically. Meanwhile, with FBM, you can get that thing in and get it listed right away. And you can test a lot lighter too, because you can literally buy just a couple of stuff for FBM, when if you do that for FBA, typically you don't have a full box and have stuff fully optimized. So a big benefit of FBM is the speed component to it and how you can test later. Now, time of the year also matters too, though. In November and December for Q4, and then August and July specifically for back to school, FBM gets a lot more of the buy box than it typically does because there's a big spike in demand in a short period of time, and people don't have time to get their FBA inventory in stock that they just bought that's nice and profitable inventory, which then it makes a lot of sense to FBM. And then the other months of the year, largely for the most part, January to, mid-October, late October, right? A little bit of FBM, a lot for back to school for some items in July and August that have a lot of FBM presence. You're mainly going to be doing FBA. And why does FBA make a lot of sense, for example? Because it's so easy to scale. You're not fulfilling individual orders. You can ship the products off in bulk to Amazon. Amazon handles the customer service, for example. You can delegate your FBA to a prep center as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. So the big decisions of like whether or not you should FBA or FBM a specific product typically comes down to, how confident you are in that product and how confident you are in it being good over time. Because when you buy a listing to test FBM, you're going to get feedback pretty quick on if that was good. And there's, not really much time for a bunch of people to get in stock on, which might happen from time to time. When you're a newer seller, you're not getting stuff as cheap as it can be. You're not finding stuff that's, super hidden behind different discount codes, which, for example, in my business, that's really all I buy now. Yeah, and then when you buy something to FBA, you got to make sure it stays good, for example, right? So that, makes sense. FBA, you can buy a lot heavier and it just scales a lot easier too. It scales with the prep center model really nicely. although some prep centers do FBM too. And FBA overall is just a better selling experience. The nice thing is you can do both at the same time. And when you're a newer seller, especially with what I did, it makes a ton of sense to do FBM to just learn and really churn your capital really quick. FBM's better for cash flow. FBA is better for scaling. FBM's better for getting your initial proof of concept just because you can buy a couple stuff, get stuff rock and rolling right from the get-go right there. So in terms of FBA or FBM, which is better, it really just depends on what you're personally looking to do. And what a lot of people do, a lot of big sellers too, will do FBA mainly from January to October, and then they'll do a ton of FBM in November and December, especially in December, right when there's that big demand increase specifically right there. So the main cons of FBA are the cash flow cycle and just how it takes a while to restock too, for example. But then the big pros of FBA are how scalable it is and how you can sell products more expensive. Because when you sell stuff FBA, you can totally price it higher because customers are more likely to buy an item when they see that Prime badge right there. So Amazon gives you more of a buy box at higher prices. So when you're in stock, FBA gives you faster sales. It just can take a little while to get in stock based on what FBA warehouse you're shipping to, for example. And then FBM, great for cash flow, great for restocking quick, great for scaling quick during those seasonal times of the year. The cons of FBM are it's a little bit more work, and some listings won't be FBM friendly. Some listings you're going to take a look at are dominated by Amazon Prime sellers, and that's why it's really important to have the Seller Amp offer summary activated in your Seller Amp settings, which is really easy to do. It's right below where you put in your sales tax. You just want to make sure you have profit margin, offer summary, break even, all of those selected right there. And then the data buy box statistics on Keepa is really helpful too for seeing if a listing is going to be FBM friendly or not. Or you can just test when you're at newer sellers. As long as you're seeing some people FBM in a product, you probably can too. That's going to help you get the ball rolling. My best piece of advice is do both. Mainly more FBM when you're a newer seller and mainly more FBA as you're scaling up your business. So now you guys know the pros and cons of FBA versus FBM. Getting tactical, I also want to break down the different shipping costs just so you have full clarity on this. I tend to see a lot of beginners do get confused by this. So here's how to actually understand and calculate estimated FBM and FBA shipping costs, for example. So I'm over here in the settings of Seller Amp. You'll do this from time to time. Like you got to put in your sales tax to start. For example, right here, like we went over in the Seller Amp section right there. I also like to just estimate inbound shipping costs at about 70 cents per pound to FBA right there. Because when we do FBA, obviously we put everything in a box together. Typically you get it, pretty full. Over time, you get really good at like buying the perfect quantities to put in them to get cost lower, for example, right there. When you go ahead and add in 70 cents per pound to your Seller Amp backend, for FBA calculator on Seller Amp, it's now going to add in that cost so you don't have to like do a bunch of mental math. So when I take a look at Seller Amp, people always love to say like, okay, what about the shipping cost? The cool thing is the shipping cost is in there. So typically for the most part, you're going to get it right around 70 cents per pound. Obviously what you're selling matters, where you're located matters, but that's a good pro tip in general. It's going to be around that. Over time, you can probably get it cheaper as well, just being more efficient. Eventually shipping off pallets can be significantly cheaper than that right there as well. So if we take a look over here at the Seller Amp profit calculator, these numbers currently include FBA shipping right there at about 70 cents per pound. You might be doing a bunch of FBA shipments and getting lower than that, in which case you would add it in and lower it, for example, on Seller Amp right there and update that, right? In terms of actually estimating the FBM shipment cost, that's where it gets a little bit tricky and where beginners get confused. So remember, guys, this currently is the FBA calculator on Seller Amp. If we go ahead and scroll down here, guys, we can go ahead and actually switch this fulfillment type from FBA to FBM. Now, where beginners go wrong, though, is they don't put in an estimated FBM cost, the FBM shipping cost right here. The way you go ahead and calculate that is you rock and roll up here and you take a look at the quick info right here on Seller Amp, literally right here, just on quick info, and you take a look at the weight, right? So we see the weight on this product's 14 ounces. And then we can go ahead and take a look over here. This is a little guide for you guys I have at howtofbm.com here. And we see the estimated cost right here. So below 1 pound is typically going to be USPS. Above 1 pound is typically going to be UPS. When you buy shipping through FBM, or as you just do it through Amazon, for example, you buy whatever's cheapest here. This is a good general guideline of what these costs will typically be. For example, so I'd recommend just taking a screenshot of this. It's really, really important. And now when you check the weight on Seller Amp, you're going to know what to put in for the FBM cost, for example. So this guy is here at 14 ounces. So to go ahead and calculate this correctly, we'd go ahead and scroll down over here. And then we would now see this as 14 ounces. So it's probably going to ship for like $6, for example, on average. So if we go ahead and plug in $6 here, we can see FBM, this would be about a 54% ROI. But FBA, this would be only about a 45% ROI. And you can see in certain cases, stuff will be more profitable to FBM compared to FBA. It's really important that you go ahead and dial that in on your calculators so you know how those different costs break down. And that when you FBA, you don't pay individual shipping, but you do pay FBA fees. When you FBM, you do pay individual shipping, but you don't pay FBA fees, right? And FBA shipping tends to be about 70 cents per pound, right? You're doing big bulk boxes, for example, right? Meanwhile, with FBM, it's going to be whatever correlates to the specific weight of the product, which you're going to see specifically right here. So no need to overthink this stuff, guys. If you've got any questions about this, let me know in the comments as always. And that's the different shipping costs between FBA and FBM. All right, guys, so as you start getting sales within your Amazon business, it's important to actually know your numbers and your analytics so you know if you're actually making money and everything like that. And Boxum's going to go ahead and do that for you using the Boxum Analytics features. Now, I'm obviously not going to show you inside my Boxum account specifically right here, but I can walk you through, how each and every different features works. I just don't want to expose the specific products that I'm selling right here. So this is right directly from the Boxum website. Boxum integrates directly with your Amazon seller account. There's a 2-week free trial on our website, boxum.com as well. And the basic Boxum interface here is going to show you your sales today, this week, this month, and last month with customizable tiles so you can view other timeframes within your Amazon business as well. You're going to be able to easily see your orders and unit counts, as well as your refunds percent, any advertising spend, which the cool part about online arbitrage is we don't need any advertising spend, as well as your estimated payouts and your net profits right there. Like I was saying, you can customize this to different views right here, but it just gives you a nice overview of how your business is actually doing right there via sales, fees, profit, recent shipments. You can track all your recent FBA shipments as well. And you can also see a nice UI that shows you your revenue and profit on a day-by-day basis that you can go ahead and customize as well right here. And you can filter into products sold and see the different products that you're selling the most of, so on and so forth right there. So really all you need to go ahead and get set up with Boxum is just an Amazon seller account, and you go ahead and sync it right here. We have really good tutorials on the Boxum YouTube channel as well as the Boxum Help Center on our website, boxum.com as well right here, right? We can also see different features in respect like going ahead and listing products. You guys saw in the listing and shipping part though as well right here too, right? And then we also have inventory management right here in the inventory page where you can go ahead and see your in-stock quantity of products, your in-stock buy cost, sales value, total number of ASINs, as well as a nice little overview of your different ASIN count, different supply counts. You can go ahead and manage your inventory right here as well. You can see the SKU, the product name, the list price, the quantity in stock, the buy cost, the supplier, etc. right there. And it really just helps you streamline your operation so you can focus more on what matters here. And then we also have really in-depth analytics coming soon, guys, in the form of an ASIN profitability page so you can tell all your best ASINs and analytics for them, as well as a supplier profitability page and just some other features to go ahead and help you manage your business as best as possible. So you can go ahead and see your revenue and profit day by day, as well as the best categories, the best suppliers, etc. right here, and then all the suppliers that are doing best on this as well. So not only does Boxum make it significantly easier to actually list your products and send FBA shipments than Amazon Seller Central does, but it also gives you a good view of your analytics as well. So make sure when you guys start selling products, which after watching the free course, want to make sure you guys are selling a ton of products, you go ahead and get Boxum so you can manage your business a lot easier right there as well. So that's how to use Boxum for analytics. Like I said, guys, we have tons of additional features coming soon. It's actually a good chance some of these features and more features have been added by the time you guys are watching this video. So now you guys know how the Boxum analytics features work. I think it's a pretty cool segment to show you an actual full net profit breakdown of my first big month, actually just about 3 years ago when I sold over 300K in 1 month in my Amazon business. That was the month that completely changed my life and showed me that internet money could be really, really big if I put in a ton of work and just consisted of a ton of just pumping merchant field orders and staying in stock as much as possible. It's not going to completely add up here because like the inventory placement, I just did $1,800 and it was like $1,768 or something like that specifically here. But top line revenue, about $322,000 specifically, right? So that's overall top line sales, right? And then refunds were about $12,000. Those are just customers returning products. completely normal right there. Not a bad refund rate right there as well. So the cost of goods sold, aka the inventory, was right about 156 grand. It was $155,916.31. That's the cool thing about like Boxum with analytics and everything like that. That's what I recommend in terms of tracking all your analytics in your Amazon business. Selling fees specifically right there were $54,527.37. Those are the flat referral fees that go on the orders. FBM shipping cost, December is a ton of FBM. So FBM shipping cost was about $20,918.66. There are some additional costs there from pirate ship as well. Inventory placement fees, which I actually learned you could turn off inventory placement back in the day. Those features are long gone in respect like that specific thing on that part of the P&L. Right there was about $1,800. The FBA fees I paid were about $22,370.56 right there for a total net profit of over $50,000, right around $55,000, a profit margin of about 17%, and an overall return on investment of that 156 grand that I spent, getting back over 50K in profit, about 35% right there. So honestly, pretty in line in respect to what I talk about product research wise in terms of what you should be aiming for. So I think it's cool for you guys to see a full breakdown of what those numbers actually look like. There's a fee or two I didn't plug in specifically right there, but they were small ones. It was over 50K in on net profit. And that really changed my life and showed me, what was possible here, guys. So make sure, especially, you go through the back to school section, the Q4 section right there. That'll show you how to fully take advantage as best as possible of those big months of the year when it becomes really easy and you got to step up to the plate and take full advantage. As you scale your Amazon business, a really helpful thing you can do is actually hire a prep center to outsource your prep work to, right? Because if you're scaling Amazon business just yourself, it's a lot of packages, a lot of boxes, and that's a great thing when you're getting going, making money online. But eventually, you really have two choices. You can either hire someone to prep for yourself or outsource your prep work to what's called a prep center. So let's break down how the model of doing things yourself versus doing things using a prep center actually look. When you're prepping products yourself, you order the product yourself or to your warehouse, for example, if you really are scaling, and then either you or someone that works for you is going to have to label and prepare the product and actually ship them off in bulk to the Amazon warehouse, right? So you're significantly more involved in the process. You probably don't live in a sales tax free state like Delaware, New Hampshire, Oregon, or Montana. There are some states that have no sales tax in certain categories like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, for example, too, Texas, even California, and certain types of products. But when you order a product to a prep center, you're probably going to hire a prep center in a sales tax free state, and they're going to receive the inventory for you. You're going to ship it from the supplier directly to the prep center, and then they're going to have limited access to your Boxum account to go ahead and actually create that shipment for you. So they're going to go in as a sub user on your Boxum account and actually list the product for you, and then actually go ahead and create the shipment, print the labels, handle the entire process for you. So the cost breakdown of using a prep center versus prepping yourself, when you're prepping the products yourself or your employees, for example, let's say for this case, no employees, you prepping yourself, right? You don't pay any money for the actual prep costs, but you do pay sales tax and you pay the time that you have to invest into prepping the products. Meanwhile, when you use a prep center, you probably aren't going to pay sales tax like you would if you were actually shipping it yourself, unless you live in a sales tax free state. When you ship to a state with no sales tax, it's all just based on where the order goes to, for example, where the transaction was located. You don't pay sales tax, but you do pay the prep fee, for example, which typically is going to be in the ballpark of like 1.5 to $1.75 per unit. So that's the nice thing, is it's a completely variable cost, right? So if you order a $50 product and you live in an 8% sales tax state to yourself, you're going to pay 54 bucks. Meanwhile, if you order that same product to a sales tax free prep center and you're paying $1.75 a unit, you're only going to pay $51.75. Right? So I used to live in Pennsylvania, a sales tax free state where I had my own warehouse for a couple of years. And then I moved down to Florida and started using a prep center. Florida has like 6 to 7% sales tax, but I still use a prep center with locations in Pennsylvania and Delaware, which makes that experience sales tax free. So rather than paying 7% sales tax and doing the work, and putting in the time and paying for the supplies or the labor, for example, write all the labels as well, I can use a prep center and have them do all the work for me and only pay $1.50, $1.75 a unit, for example. And that's the beautiful thing of the prep center model, is very rarely do you actually get to save time and save money. The time savings being the really important thing, not needing to have that infrastructure. And when you see people like Aaron, for example, that are traveling full time running their Amazon business, the way they're able to do that is by utilizing prep centers. So like I'm here in condo in Miami, there's not a Procton site besides a couple examples we're using for the shipping sections. And I have tons of units in Amazon FBA right now that I didn't actually go ahead and prep myself. So that's an absolutely beautiful part of the scaling process, is utilizing a sales tax free prep center. So ideally you want to prep center a sales tax free state, Delaware or New Hampshire being the best ones due to the East Coast location. Montana or Oregon is definitely not the end of the world. But I like the East Coast prep center specifically because a lot of suppliers actually ship from the East Coast too, so it gets them quicker. And the East Coast FBA warehouses tend to be better in my opinion too. Charlotte, Pennsylvania, New Jersey specifically. So I like sales tax free prep centers on the East Coast. How do you actually find a prep center to use? So the best way in my opinion is going to be your referral within the community. You'll hear about me talking about networking with other Amazon sellers, social media, leveraging free communities so often. All the prep centers I've ever gotten, I've literally just asked a friend for a referral or actually gotten to know the prep center myself just organically in the community. If you don't yet have good relationships in the community, definitely put in some work to go find that. Get active on Twitter, get active on Discord, get active on Instagram. For example, get around some other Amazon sellers, get in the mix. My friend Clear the Shelf, Chris Grant at cleartheshelf.com, has a great list of prep centers on his website. You can organize it by state. For example, so if you just Google Clear the Shelf Prep Center, you'll find a big list on there. And then you get into the vetting process and finding a good long-term partner to do business with as your prep center. In terms of actually getting set up with the prep center, in terms of like cost, you can expect like $1.75 base to start, although you do want a relationship where it is going to scale with volume and actually get cheaper right there. Finding the right prep center relationship, probably right now you don't have any great connections in the Amazon community that are just gonna, loop you in with the prep center immediately. You can list on Chris Grant's website. It's going to be a great place to start. We have a couple great Buy Box Bandits podcast episodes on your favorite podcast platform with Chris as well. And then you got to start doing some outreach to different prep centers and filling them in on your situation. Ideally getting people on the phone and talking through a bunch of different questions like how long they've been in business. Do they sell on Amazon themselves? Is there any sort of exclusivity agreement? How does the pricing work, right? Does the pricing scale down with volume, right? What types of items do they typically do? Are there any websites that their address is banned on, for example, right? What software do they use? What system do they use? What's their expected turnaround time? What's your point of contact? Is it a gigantic prep center with dozens of employees, or is it a small mom and pop shop that a family's running, for example, where you can probably talk direct to the owner? This is stuff you need to take into consideration. So in terms of when it makes sense to get started with the prep center, some people, you might be starting with a bunch of capital, have a great make money situation currently, want to make some extra money on Amazon, and you might want to use a prep center right from the get-go if you can prove you're going to find enough profitable inventory. A lot of prep centers do have requirements like 500 units per month or 300 units per month, for example, right there. If you're not that demographic of a newer seller with a ton of capital, for example, ready to rock and roll, getting this stuff quick, I would wait till you can comfortably send like 500 units per month, right? Because you could be capital constrained, you could be skill constrained, and most prep centers don't take complete beginners that are going to send less inventory than that couple hundred units per month. But every prep center is unique and they'll let you know on their specific requirements, their specific costs. Some prep centers will even do FBM, and that's on you to go ahead and communicate with them about. So we know how prep centers actually work. We know where to find them. We know the cost. We know how to interview a prep center. How does it actually work in terms of getting set up? So obviously, if they're at all organized, they're going to have a standard operating procedure, otherwise known as SOP, to actually get you set up. But typically, what it's going to look like is they'll have a little SOP that'll show you how to give them limited access to your seller account, sub-user access on your Boxem account specifically, as well as a Google Sheet typically for how you actually let them know what's coming in. So you place an order, you add it, honestly pretty similar to the order tracking spreadsheet we just saw right there, and then they'll update it when they go out and ship it, and they'll have that limited access to your seller account and your Boxem account to actually do those shipments through. And then honestly, your only responsibility in the process is making sure the inventory is getting from the supplier to the prep center, and that the inventory is getting from the prep center to Amazon, and all the quantities are specifically checked right there. So you go from needing to be on site, doing all the labeling, prepping boxes, paying for space potentially if you scaled out of the bedroom right there, to really only needing to go ahead and manage the process. And it just like really gives you a lot more freedom in that, like when you're prepping products yourself, you kind of have to be in one place. You can obviously change the ship from match if you were traveling, but for the most part, right, using a prep center allows you to scale really easily right there. And the prep center model makes a ton of sense for a lot of you guys watching this. once you're at 500 units per month. So make sure you go ahead and bookmark that stuff and come back to this when you're ready in the future. Or if you're a high earning professional looking to make some side money on Amazon, you maybe live in a high sales tax state, you got a bunch of capital, you're ready to rock and roll, you're loving the free course that your boys put out, maybe it makes sense to go ahead and get started with the Prep Center as soon as possible, right from the get-go when you're a complete beginner. I really recommend take time to vet your prep center prior. It can be an absolute nightmare dealing with the wrong prep center. Make sure they've been in business for a while. Make sure they have a website. Make sure they have testimonials. You can see on their testimonials page the names of people. Look those people up and contact them. And the best way definitely is going to be getting a referral within the FBA community specifically. And that's something I also do with my students as well, as plug them in on different prep centers that I personally know and have vetted. That's how to use prep centers 101 for beginner Amazon sellers. So, along with scaling your business using a prep center and outsourcing all the prep work required to make your business work, there are certain computer based tasks that can totally be outsourced to virtual assistants as well, which is a great way to scale your business too. So, there's really two very helpful components of scaling your business, which remove a lot of the need for you and the business, giving you more free time to drink margaritas on the beach or whatever you like to do in your free time. So let's break down everything that goes to virtual assistants, how to hire them, how to train them, what to pay them, where to find them, what tasks they can do, everything like that. So to start off, what actually is a virtual assistant? So a virtual assistant, at least how it's used for Amazon sellers, is people in countries where the US dollar goes way further, aka really cheap countries like India, the Philippines, Pakistan, that are looking for great work from home jobs in your Amazon business, for example, doing stuff like product research, admin work, supplier outreach for wholesale, fixing account health issues, doing ungates for you, managing customer service, really anything on the computer. Once you're consistently getting some sales, go through a whole day and identify everything you do on the computer. And outside of prep work, for example, which is kind of on the computer, and box them, for example, anything on the computer could be done by a virtual assistant. I don't like this for beginners, but some advanced sellers will even have their virtual assistant with special credit cards overseas they're checking out on. Personally, that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit specifically, but the main things virtual assistants are helpful for Amazon sellers with is going to be product sourcing, so hooked up to a VPN doing product research for you, and admin work. Luckily, you can actually find virtual assistants that do have experience with product sourcing, with admin work, or you can train up from the ground up. And if you just find a great, culture fit, for example, someone that really vibes with your personality type. One of my friends FaceTimes his VA all the time as they're attacking different OA opportunities and makes it really fun for them. And it's a huge win-win for you in that you as the business owner get to get great talent overseas that you might have to pay $20, $30, or $40 an hour for help if they were a US worker, and you can outsource that work for like $3 to $6 per hour, a little bit more depending specifically, right? So it's another example where it's a massive win-win in arbitrage, and really the only person that loses in it is the unskilled American worker, for example, when YouTube exists and this stuff exists, and you can get your skills and your bread up pretty easy watching stuff like this. So it's a very advantageous thing to utilize virtual assistants in your Amazon business, specifically for product sourcing and admin work. So where do you actually find virtual assistants? There's a bunch of places. A lot of the ones that come to mind is like Upwork and Fiverr, for example. However, my personal favorite is onlinejobs.ph. It does cost $70 per month. There is a free version. I'm personally a fan of paying the $70 just the first month, get your job posting. It really amplifies it, for example, and then you get a ton of applications pretty quick right there. So onlinejobs.ph is awesome, and then you can take them off platform. For example, the bad part about Upwork and Fiverr is you pay them through the platform too. They're more or less so people looking for gig work. When you're finding a virtual assistant, similar to when you're hiring a prep center, you're looking for a great long-term partner to help scale your business with. So how do you actually make a good job posting? Because I know for a fact when I was a newer seller getting my first virtual assistant, I was doing $10K a month in sales, which is a little early. For example, I think most people should be 20 to 30K a month in sales. I was super excited to do it, but I didn't know how to make the right job posting. Luckily, these days, ChatGPT exists, so you could just plug in on ChatGPT make me a virtual assistant job posting for a part-time, college student who's proficient in SellerAmp and Keep Up for Amazon FBA product research to find someone with experience, right? Very important to know, guys. What do you actually pay virtual assistants? See what they want. Start out at $3 to $6 per hour in your job posting right there, but get on Zoom with a couple people. My best way to hire virtual assistants is to take on 2 at a time for a week-long paid trial. after you do video interviews with a bunch of VAs to get to know them and what value they can add to your actual business. Most of you guys are going to be hiring product research virtual assistants, so have them send you example leads, or maybe you send a couple examples of keyword charts, one being good, one being really bad, one being okay, and have them rank them and say why they're good or bad. I think it's a great idea. A really good pro tip to add to your job post for onlinejobs.ph as well is get like a decent framework from ChatGPT. Personalize it though, which actually you'd think would be obvious, but some people just be posting like copy and paste stuff, so it's not obvious. Make sure you personalize it right there. And then at the end of it, this is a really good pro tip to figure out who actually read the job posting. Put at the end of it, like, please put your favorite color at the end of your resume or below your cover letter, for example, or something in the email you reply to this email with, for example. And then you'll figure out who actually read the job post, and that'll filter out like 75% applicants. So the cool thing is, it's really mind-blowing how much demand there is for good work-from-home jobs in countries like the Philippines. And that's great for us as Amazon sellers because it's very cheap for us, provides a good service to them. It's a beautiful thing. When you make a job posting on onlinejobs.ph, if you have the pro version, the $7 a month, you just cancel it after. For example, you get a ton of applications really quick, and then it's just on filtering who actually read it, who added the colors there, who seems proficient, has good experience, or seems like a good culture fit, and then you start getting on Zoom with people, collaborating right there. In terms of communicating with virtual assistants, Discord's a great way to do it. They'll go ahead and make Discord. In terms of paying virtual assistants, see what platform they want to be paid through. Typically, it's going to be PayPal or Wise. I even had a VA who wanted to get paid through crypto one time, which I thought was pretty good banter. And then once you actually have a virtual assistant or two on like a week-long trial, for example, you start to be able to compare them really easily and see how they work. For example, some people will want to work just on the Philippines time. Some people want to do Eastern Standard Time. That's personally up to you. Some people like really being able to communicate with their VAs throughout the day and being super hands-on. That tends to be more effective in my opinion. Some people like to wake up to new leads and then just reply on the spreadsheet. For example, similar to the prep center model, I recommend the way you actually communicate with VAs in terms of like the leads and stuff should be via just Google Sheets, for example, right there where they can add in like, okay, this item's $10, it's on for 22. Here's the link, here's the source link, the Amazon link, here's the discount that was used, and you can go ahead and vet them right there. In terms of expected ROI from a virtual assistant, I always get the question like, how many leads do they find per day? That doesn't really matter if the leads aren't purchasable, and that doesn't matter if the leads don't stay profitable. And that's why it's really important to look for a long-term partner in your virtual assistants, because virtual assistants can totally double dip and work for multiple sellers at the same time, but people don't screw over the people they like. Right? And that's why relationships are so key with your prep center, with your virtual assistant, with other Amazon sellers in the community. So it's really important, guys, that you build a good relationship with your virtual assistants and show them the long-term upside of working in your company. And that gives them a lot of reason to not be double dipping. And then you know, if they're just sending leads from leads list of a bunch of other, Filipino people are sharing, for example, the offer counts are going to go up. The prices are going to tank right there. Now, guys, virtual assistants are not a band-aid. They are something that assists you on the rocket ship to scaling your Amazon business to the moon. They are not a band-aid to fix bad product research. I got my first virtual assistant when I was doing like 10K a month total between a little bit of Amazon, a little bit of shoe reselling, for example, to help with admin work. But most Amazon sellers, I think, should get virtual assistants around like 20 to 30K in sales per month. And there's some wildly successful sellers that I know that just scaled up with merch filled nicely that didn't get virtual assistants till they're doing like 130K per month. Once you have a good setup, whether it's you hired one VA or you did two for a week-long trial, for example, what that workflow just typically looks like is a lot of communication, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of training, and then it's just going to be a nice flow once you get in a rhythm and actually have them trained up of them feeding you leads, then you potentially finding new opportunities. You may be putting them on profit share too is a great idea on top of the base salary, which most likely is going to end up being somewhere around 200 to 500 USD per month, depending on how many hours they're working and how much money they actually want from you to do the job. In terms of cost, figure out what they're looking for and go from there. Quality of VAs wildly varies based on how lucky you get in terms of the first opportunities, what type of fit you're looking for in terms of just person availability wise, if you guys get along, for example, too, their skill level and experience, or if you're looking to train someone up from the get-go. But overall, virtual assistants are a great tool to scale your Amazon business using less of your own time, very similar to prep centers. So now you guys know how to do prep centers and virtual assistants to actually scale your business. Another tool I've personally used to scale my business is going to be business credit. I want to make it very clear that I actually don't recommend using leverage in your Amazon business for most people. However, I do love the idea of having a high rewards credit card to spend through just to get additional cash back. Personally, I definitely don't recommend spending money you don't have. However, if you have cash to back it up, why not put your inventory spend through a high rewards credit card? So I'm gonna share with you guys the 3 best credit cards in my personal opinion for Amazon sellers specifically. The best one for rewards is gonna be the Capital One Spark card, the like elevated Capital One business card, for example. And the cool thing is you actually don't need an LLC to get some business credit cards. A lot of beginners don't know that, for example, right there. However, I'm a big fan of the Capital One Spark card with the 2% cash back. I think there is an annual fee, but it easily pays for itself. I've spent millions and millions of dollars on inventory over the years. Having it through a high rewards credit card is incredibly helpful. My favorite credit card for beginners is going to be the Amex Business Blue. There's actually 2 different options, the Amex Blue Cash and the Amex Blue Plus, for example. One does cash back, one does points. Those typically have 0% APR introductory offers, but the big thing is that it's nice and easy to get from my experience, and there's no annual fee right there. And the third option I really like for Amazon sellers, typically because they give pretty high limits, is going to be the Amex Plum card with the 60-day payback period specifically. Once again, not a big fan of leverage for most people. However, that is a cool benefit of that specific card right there. And it looks like kind of cool and dark red and shiny, for example, right there. I think there is an annual fee on it specifically. Those are my 3 favorite business credit cards specifically right there. And utilizing and maximizing cashback has been a phenomenal tool to make me extra profit. I literally made over $40,000 profit extra 1 year just from maximizing my credit card cashback and my cashback from different retailers and rewards programs. Another super helpful tool for Amazon sellers is actually going to be utilizing artificial intelligence and ChatGPT right here to make your life a lot easier, just getting things laid out a lot quicker. One really good way to find stuff and just use ChatGPT is just going to be virtual assistant job applications, right? So I'm going to say like, make me, or I want to hire. If you're unfamiliar with ChatGPT, this is mind blowing. To hire a virtual assistant to manage admin tasks for my Amazon FBA business, right? Part time, 20 hours per week, right here, right? With good proficiency in Google Docs and Google Sheets, right? You can do the same thing for like product research, for example, right here. And then now it's just going to spit out a job application right here, which is just so helpful. It's mind blowing seeing this in action, right? And it's just going to spit it out right here. Obviously, you'd want to make it a little bit more personalized. I like at the end of virtual assistant job applications to have something in there that says like, add your favorite color to the bottom of your job application right here. But this just speeds it up, really, really quick in terms of just getting a decent framework here and then just personalizing it on your end to your specific company, right? And I like doing virtual assistant job posts on onlinejobs.ph right here as well. So like you can see, like this is a good basic framework here as well, right? The same thing can be said also like using it for wholesale supplier outreach. Like I am doing outreach to buy products wholesale via cold email, right? Make me a good email script for suppliers. Obviously, you want to personalize these, especially here too, right? But you see, you get a decent idea initially here, right? And you can see literally, my name is your name. I'm the owner of XYZ business here, right? I'm interested in XYZ specific product here as well. And literally, you can see right here, like it just speeds up the process a lot and makes your life, significantly easier. It literally says that this script is polite, professional, makes it easy. For example, right there. So that's a really, really good idea. Another use case I really like for ChatGPT specifically right here is going to be niche ideas, right? So for example, if we go in here and say like, what items are best to sell on Amazon in January, right here, right? So we can see it's going to make sense what it's going to plug in. You just surprised like, how easy you can just make things like, yeah, like new year, new me for fitness stuff, for example, right? Productivity items for like people looking to get organized and stuff. Winter seasonal products makes a ton of sense as well, right? And then what we could do is just search these types of niches on Amazon and see what listings and brands have a good amount of sellers. We can see, I didn't even see that it showed Valentine's Day preparations right here. So ChatGPT is really helpful for niche ideas as well that we can take a look at that, too on there. Customer service is also really helpful on ChatGPT too. So like when you sell products on Amazon FBM via merch filled, you can do that at the same time, on the same account as FBA. FBA, there's no customer service required. FBM, you are going to have to do customer service. It's really easy though, for example, but a common thing gets a lot easier with ChatGPT too. So for example, a really common thing you're getting at all the time is like, not all the time, but occasionally, is going to be a customer that says they didn't receive the order, but the tracking shows delivered. So you can have ChatGPT make a template that encourages them to file an A to Z claim where you're going to be protected on that, for example. So let's say, so a customer, I sold a product to via Amazon merchant fulfill, said they did not receive the product, but the tracking shows delivered. Please make a template. And then you can just save it in your customer service on Amazon settings, encouraging them to file a claim, an A to Z claim. Right, and you can see it now. It's just gonna spit it out. It makes it like so much easier. For example, right here, so we can literally see here. Yeah, look at that. It just spits it out immediately here. Right, and we can see it's gonna put in different templates right there, and then you can just save that in your settings right here, and it shows them how to do the A to Z claim, which Amazon is very helpful at protecting sellers with right there. So honestly, when you send this type of response, sometimes the customer is trying to scam you, and then they won't even just end up doing the claim. But if they do file a claim, maybe they legitimately like, it got stolen off their doorstep or whatever, for example, right? This is how you're easily going to protect yourself and give the customer the best experience possible. Another really good way to use ChatGPT too, and just to find wholesale suppliers in general for Amazon wholesale, is going to be locating trade shows. Like, this is just such a good way to use it. It's like we can just look up, like, tell me the best trade shows in North America to go to as an Amazon wholesale seller. And obviously it's not going to be 100% accurate here, but we can literally see like just going to start spitting out some of the most important ones. Yeah, ASD Market Week I've gone to the past 2 years, for example. It's probably going to show one called like snacks and treats or something like that in Chicago or something like that. Yeah, okay, this one's in China, so we need to do North America specifically here. Yeah, Global Pet Expo. For example, trade shows are places you can go and meet vendors face to face. Obviously, we're talking here about, online arbitrage specifically, but wholesale supplier, you might be interested in that down the line. And it's really helpful just to use ChatGPT to go ahead and spit that out. And honestly, too, guys, as well, just general Amazon questions, like ChatGPT low-key about to put me out of business. Yeah, like you can just search like how to get ungated to sell products on Amazon, right? It's like all types of stuff here. You can search like, does Walmart take tax exempt? And if so, how do I get it? Right, so you should really have ChatGPT and go ahead and get this stuff in super easy, right? It's still spitting out the how to go ahead and do the ungate right here. So literally, right, you see that right there, and we can see right there, just plug it in, open a professional seller account, going and submitting the application here as well. And it's still going on this too as well, so we can see that right there. It's just super helpful here, and we can see like, does Walmart take tax? And if so, how do I get it? Right, the cool thing is like all the questions I get in live streams, some of the questions I get in the comments here, like a lot of that is taken, literally, or ChatGPT can answer a lot of that stuff for you guys and just really speed up your processes right there as well. Literally, see a setup tax exemption at Walmart here. Literally gives a direct link, right? That's so cool. For example, right there, and then just there we go, right? Just nice and easy on that right there. So definitely don't sleep on ChatGPT for Amazon sellers. If you haven't yet used this technology, I think it's like $20 a month. It's super helpful. It's just going to benefit you in other parts of life as well. Don't sleep on ChatGPT. All right, now that you guys know those ChatGPT hacks for Amazon sellers, I also want to fill you guys in on how I did over $1 million in revenue in just my first year, and actually walk you guys through month by month what that actually looked like. I'm obviously not going to have the numbers perfect specifically right there. We're going to go through all with a rough estimate and just talk through what specifically was the catalyst of my quick success and what went into that. So the year is 2021, so it's about 4 years ago. I finished college a semester early in December of 2020 to trace my internet money dreams. What I was previously spending a lot of my time doing during what happened in 2020 was a mix of selling used books on Amazon, reselling shoes on different platforms, posting a bunch on Instagram and Twitter, just meeting people specifically in like the finance and reselling community, and then part-time trying to build an SMMA selling Facebook ads to medical spas, which I actually made a decent amount of money doing. But I finished college early and immediately got all of this time back, right? And that whole month of January was spent exploring different stuff. I wasn't putting a ton of time into selling used books on Amazon, which is very, very difficult to scale, but I knew a little bit of the system right there. And basically, interestingly enough, guys, and prior to 2020, guys, interestingly enough, gating wasn't really a thing unless your Amazon account had been around for a while. But obviously, during 2020, a lot of wholesalers got really backed up and the whole supply chain got messed up. So Amazon started approving resellers and wholesalers for pretty much anything you wanted. And that was really what made Ungating a thing, just using retail receipts and invoices just from big retail websites. So I heard through the grapevine that Ungating was a thing and got a couple big brands unlocked and started listing my shoe inventory in early February. And it started really moving nicely on Amazon. And then I did what I always do when I figure something out, is I started posting on social media about it, and the algorithm started connecting me with cool sellers, and I started to get like comments on my page, for example. And I was watching a Gary Vee video, and he was like, how can you not respond to everyone that comments? Why don't you go ahead and message them? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point, Gary. I'm not just going to reply to their comments. I'm also going to message them and introduce myself. And I did that to my man Garrett from All Out Amazon, that I now do the Buy Box Bandits podcast with. And I said, hey, let's get on Zoom and let's talk through, selling Amazon a little bit. And immediately he started putting me on a ton of game. And I literally just looked at his page once or twice and saw he was like shipping out some pallets products. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And we just immediately hit it off. We made a group chat with a couple other sellers we also had on the Buy Box Bandits, and we just hit it off immediately and hit the ground running. I did like $6K in revenue that first month, and then immediately right after that, we found a couple banger products we could scale really quick with Merchant Filled. And then March and April, I did about 30 and 40K revenue, and immediately it was like, okay, this is my calling. This is what I'm going to put time into. Forget the Facebook ad stuff. Forget the shoe reselling stuff. This is what I'm going to put all my time into. And I was just chilling, scaling up Merchant Filled, getting on Zoom calls with the boys, talking in the group chats all day, documenting my progress on social media, getting connected and really just immersed in the Amazon seller community, listening to as many podcasts I could, watch as many YouTube videos as I could, especially from one guy named Fields of Profit that we eventually added to the friend group as well. And Warner, obviously, you guys should totally check out his videos as well. He's a part of SellerAmp, a part of Boxing as well, and has a great channel at Fields of Profit. He joined the gang as well, and eventually I went on vacation in May. And the problem with that was I was only doing Merch Filled, so I learned that I needed to start doing FBA as well. And I only did a couple grand in sales in that year in May, but then I got home in late May, super motivated and ready to hit the ground running with a ton of new inventory on the way, because May is typically when sourcing gets a lot easier compared to like between January and April. May has like Memorial Day and Mother's Day when there's a bunch of good sales on different retailers, as you guys know. And I started doing some FBA as well, but still majority FBA. June, I had my first 50K in revenue month. July, back to school started heating up. You guys know those back to school tips, absolutely fire right there. And I did about 60K in revenue, and that was once I started consistently hitting 10K a month in profit as well. But the key is, guys, once again in July, I went on vacation, so my sales went down a little bit and really were pretty low in the beginning of August, and that was right when back to school started popping off. So I missed the first initial push in back to school, and I actually got home from Florida, where I was on vacation, where I actually live now. Is the first time I went to Miami. And why I was in Miami was to attend the first ever Miami Sellers Conference. And at the Miami Sellers Conference, I was able to meet and connect with a ton of guys I saw on Instagram that were killing it and doing like 6 figures a month in sales, or 200K a month in sales, or even some people millions a month in sales. And I was like, all right, if those guys can do it, I can do 6-figure month as well. And I knew a little bit about back to school, for example, but I got back on like August 15th, turned on the Merch Filled engine, and with a new drive started going so hard at retail arbitrage and pickup orders and just restocking heavy on stuff. And that was when things really changed for me once I started buying heavier on different SKUs, is that the difference between buying 20 and buying 100 or something is 5 times the profit, but it's pretty much the same amount of work, right? And so I was annoying my parents a lot with a ton of Merch Filled orders, but I was so excited. I was like, all right, finally making 6 figures in profit annualized online, and just really just hit the ground running from there. So in August, I ended up right around like 100 grand in revenue. September, I did a little bit less, I think like 96, because I had to transition over to FBA mainly because FBM dried up as back to school ended. The really main times of the year for FBM on pretty much most items that make sense for those times of year is going to be July and August for back to school, and then the latter part of November and December for Q4. There are certain items that are FBM friendly year round. However, for the most part, those are the main two. FBM times of the year. And then I did the same thing in October, but I was battling storage limits at Amazon. Amazon only lets you send in a certain amount of inventory. And if you're scaling up your business quick, that can sometimes be an issue. Luckily, these days, they do let you pay for extra storage. And as you're scaling up, you eventually get more because they see how fast your stuff's selling. And then November was when things got absolutely crazy. That was my first 30K profit month. And then December was my first 50K profit month. And really all that went into that was just doing more and better of what I was previously doing, finding good ASINs, placing test orders, and merch fulfilling them. And then November and December, once merch fulfilled became a thing again, I was just absolutely pumping. You guys will be surprised that so much of your profit comes from a small subset of your ASINs, right? You just have to test a lot to find those really good ASINs right there. And the big takeaways from November and December, guys, is just how important it is to step up to the plate and be ready to do whatever it takes to succeed. In that case, during November and December was a lot of time spent merch filling products, a lot of time sourcing with the boys on Discord and Zoom calls, and then stepping up to the plate and restocking heavy when the opportunity presented itself. And the key is, guys, I did stuff so differently than the way most gurus would talk about it. All FBA, getting a prep center quick, getting virtual assistants quick, testing super wide, and never really buying deep on stuff. I threw that stuff out the window, guys. I did all merch filled for the most part, like about 90% probably that first year, maybe 85%, but you guys get the idea. I did not hide. I put myself out there on social media and let the world know what I was doing. That way, opportunity found me. I made some great friends, and we all won quicker together. And then I wasn't afraid of the unscalable stuff of pickup orders and retail arbitrage, and I wasn't afraid to buy heavy when the market told me something was good. And so that's my biggest piece of advice for newer sellers, guys, is get active in the community, make some friends, test order as wide as possible, buy heavy when the market tells you it's good, and make stuff good. From the get-go, I was always learning new coupons, new ways to make stuff cheaper on different retailers, and understanding that you don't find stuff good, you make it good by manufacturing the profit margin. And so that's how I sold about $1 million on Amazon, a little over $1 million on Amazon my first year. So throughout the free course, you'll probably hear me mentioning repricing and actually pricing strategy here and there. When you're actually listing products, typically when you're a beginner, you just want to match the buy box price for FBM, or when you're doing FBA, just send it in like 20% above, just using Boxum's auto list feature. And then when you actually have the inventory checked in, match the buy box price. However, an important part of scaling up your business is going to be utilizing what's called a repricing software, which is basically going to be software you can connect to your Amazon seller account that's going to optimize your prices based on what parameters you put into it, for example, with the goal of getting you as many sales as possible at the highest prices, aka profit possible right there. My repricer of choice currently for beginners is going to be BQOL. That's BQOOL. There are a bunch of good other repricers out there. You can watch my full tour on my channel to see how it breaks down. I actually got Samuel from the team at BQOL to come on and hop on the video with me on the channel for you guys. I think it makes sense to use a repricer once you have like 10 plus ASINs in your store, or you can get a repricer right from the get-go when you're a complete beginner. BQ's standard plan starts out at about $25 per month right there. So nice and easy, you can go ahead and get that connected to your Amazon seller account. Personally, I use the $100 a month version for the AI unlimited repricing. I do have an affiliate link I'll leave down below in the description, and you can go ahead and check out my full BQ tutorial right there. I'd recommend getting a repricer once you got like 10 plus ASINs, or right away from the get-go if you're super serious. I love the AI win equalizer feature on BQ as my repricing mode of choice. So repricing is not something you need to worry about right from the get-go unless you're super serious and don't mind that additional expense. But take a look at the link in the description for the affiliate link to actually go ahead and get BQ and the full BQ tutorial. Another super helpful thing you can use in your Amazon business that's really helpful for both online retail arbitrage and wholesale is what's called a sales tax permit, otherwise known as like a reseller certificate or a retailer's license. This is actually called something different in each state, which is kind of annoying, for example. But when I talk about tax exempt as one of the different manufacturing margins method, that's what I mean is using a sales tax permit, actually submitting that to a specific retailer and getting sales tax free for your purchase on that retailer. This is actually going to be required to do the Amazon wholesale business model, basically buying products in bulk. It's going to be acceptable at some places for retail arbitrage and some places for online arbitrage. the way you go ahead and actually do it is I recommend just looking up like how to get tax exempt in Pennsylvania on Google, how to get sales tax exempt in Florida, for example. Right there, just finding some CPA YouTuber is fully licensed to talk about all that stuff, for example. You just really want to make sure you're following your state's rules specifically and filing anything that needs to be filed right there. Getting a reseller certificate is really helpful for avoiding sales tax for RA, OA, and it's actually required for wholesale. For using it for wholesale, you literally just give the documentation. Typically, wholesalers are going to make you submit that information prior to even opening up the wholesale account. For RA, just go ahead and bring it with you to the store. And then for OA, you can typically look up like, does Walmart take tax exempt? Some retailers have a portal for that, and sometimes you just have to go ahead and email customer service. So if you look up like, does Joanne take tax exempt, you'll see it. I think you got to email like the support email, for example, to get your account basically whitelisted with that sales tax approval right there. But getting a resource certificate is super helpful. Just make sure you follow all your state's rules. You can go ahead and do that. Just look up on Google, find a CPA YouTuber who's made a video about it, and enjoy. Sales tax free, OA, RA, and it being required for wholesale right there. So now that you guys know how tax exempt works and a bunch of the basic setup process in respect to the back end of selling on Amazon, how to actually ship products, etc., I also want to fill you guys in on how back to school works and how Q4 works, which are the two biggest times of the year specifically for Amazon arbitrage sellers. So back to school is when a ton of parents are buying stuff like crazy, teachers buying stuff like crazy. So let's go through everything you need to know to maximize your back to school success. Starting off, when does back to school actually go from? When do we see that big demand increase on a bunch of products for back to school? So that's going to last between like July 15th and September 15th specifically, right? July being heavy on like school supplies and like fall themed sporting goods, for example. That tends to be the stuff that's going to do the best during back to school, is like school supplies, backpacks, shoes and clothing, really anything that it would make sense. You can just plug it in on ChatGPT real quick and ask ChatGPT like what sells best on Amazon for back to school, for example. That's going to be a bunch of great ideas. I also love the idea of using that buy box statistics sourcing method we talked about too, where you can go ahead and find like backpacks or school supplies that did really, really well last year, and then use the data buy box statistics on Keepa to see who had the buy box of those high prices last year. And that's going to be a great way to source products specifically back to school, is going to be storefront stocking. The key is, guys, where people go wrong seasonal sourcing, you'll hear me talk about this in the Q4 section as well, is they buy stuff and expect it to go up in price. I think that's a terrible idea. That does work, but it really only does work when you're very experienced. If not, there's just going to be people that buy it cheaper for you during the holidays that are going on, like, which is going to be like 4th of July, July Prime Day, and then Labor Day specifically for back to school season. I also love selling fall sporting goods stuff then too, like football, soccer gear, volleyball gear. It's like a slept on niche, I think, for back to school as well. So only focus on stuff that's profitable today. Another great back to school tip, guys, is going to be loading up on merch filled shipping supplies for whatever type of stuff you like to sell. That's typically going to be poly mailers from Amazon and boxes from Walmart. And look up if your state has a sales tax holiday. That's a great thing that typically happens during July or August for states that do have sales tax holidays, which will be like a weekend, for example, or maybe one day, or like a 2-week period, I think, in some states, where they give you no sales tax on certain types of products or everything, I think, for some states as well. So research that for your specific state, see how their rules work with everything on that. And remember, guys, back to school is my first 6-figure month, so you can get a ton of good work done just testing light on certain products, only buying stuff that's profitable today, and then placing big orders once something's actually sold well for you. So remember, July 15th or so is when back to school starts. It's going to be on an ASIN by ASIN basis, and then the best way to source for back to school is definitely not doing manual sourcing on unproven websites, even if it's during July Prime Day. The best way to source for back to school is going to be storefront stocking off your main listings, because even if it doesn't necessarily like consider it like a back to school product, like a shoe, for example, is, if it's a kid shoe, people are buying it more than they are other parts of the year, I guarantee, during that time of year. And the cool thing is, you can see that in the sales rank as well. Go look up backpacks. They spike in demand during January and during August. Go look at football stuff. They spike in demand every year during August and September. And it makes a lot of logical sense. Now, don't specifically like source for back to school. Just focus on what you're finding that's profitable today. But the stuff that is going to do best is going to be all that back to school themed stuff like school supplies, shoes and clothing, and then different fall sporting goods stuff. Another pro tip too is raise your FBM shipping costs in the middle of back to school. You'll hear me say that during the Q4 section as well, because as it gets closer and closer to school starting, people will pay more and more and they want that quicker shipping. And if you have your shipping template set up where you're charging $35 or $40 plus a dollar per pound, and you go to buy shipping through Amazon and Amazon's charging you $12, you just made an extra $28 profit on that sale. So back to school is an absolutely game-changing time, guys. If you're fully prepared and prepared to hit merchant field heavy, retail arbitrage is really good in that time frame to get stuff to market quick. You can restock it quick doing retail arbitrage or potentially doing pickup orders when you see that a website has a product, buy online but pick up in store. That's a great tip as well. And online arbitrage during 4th of July sales, which are right before back to school but pretty much close enough. And then July Prime Day and Labor Day as well are great too. So that's everything you guys need to know about back to school. As always, if you guys have any questions about this stuff, please let me know down below in the comments. Guys, so now that you know back to school best practice, I want to show you guys Q4 best practices as well. And no one knows how to do Q4 success better than I do. My biggest month ever was almost 500,000 in sales. Biggest day ever was almost 1,300 sales, so individual units sold. And this is really just going to be the complete guide to Q4 success for Amazon sellers. The best time of the entire year between October and December, specifically November and December, when there's a ton of holidays and a huge demand spike and huge competition drop because you don't really have time to send in FBA inventory during Q4, at least the latter part of Q4. So there's a ton of good merchant fulfilled opportunities right there. My biggest month there was about $80,000 in profit. So we're going to go through what Q4 is, the important dates, what products sell best during Q4, how to do product research most effectively, some special product research sauce, merch fulfilled supplies, merch fulfilled shipping templates, some other merch fulfilled tips, as well as Black Friday, Cyber Monday sauce, repricing tips, how to do retail arbitrage and pickup orders during Q4, how to reduce risk during Q4, as well as overall who wins the most during Q4 right here. So let's get after it here. So Q4 is the fourth quarter of the year between October and December. There's a ton of holidays going on: Halloween, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, which leads to a massive increase in consumer demand. And where are they doing that? Amazon. So us as sellers, we can fill that demand, leading to massive growth in sales and profits. So important dates for Q4, guys. November 15th, really prior to November 15th, not too much happens outside of October Prime Day sourcing being really good. So make sure you look up for 2025 once they announce the dates when October Prime Day is going to be held. That's not really a great time to sell products on Amazon. It's going to be a little bit above average sales day for you, but it's going to be a phenomenal time to source inventory to sell on Amazon, because it's the same thing as like July Prime Day, for example, right at the kickoff of back to school, is every retailer runs a sale to compete with Amazon, which means a ton of products that aren't typically profitable become profitable during those couple of days. So that's really, really awesome. And then Halloween in late October tends to be a little bit above average in terms of sale wise. There's typically some Halloween BOLO products as well, but nothing really out of the ordinary. November 15th is when the party starts. That's when you want to stop doing FBA shipments because the warehouse get a little bit backed up, and you start doing merch filled, right? Really slowing down on FBA stuff. You can still FBA stuff here and there. It just doesn't really make sense to risk not being able to sell it if it doesn't check into FBA in time. With FBM, you can learn, test, and restock a lot quicker. November 24th, these are 2024 dates, for example, is when Black Friday begins. Hopefully it's earlier for 2025. I haven't checked the specific dates, but this is when the Sunday before Black Friday is when all the deal starts, not during Black Friday. Luckily, the American consumer can't wait to spend their hard-earned money. So the Sunday before Black Friday is when these really, really good deals start. And that's the beautiful thing, is you don't have to wait till Black Friday starts to have excellent Black Friday inventory actually in stock in your Amazon store, right? And then Black Friday to Cyber Monday is when really the best sourcing of the year is turned on. That's when you want to spend really, really long hours doing product research and making sure to use all the sourcing modes and the ways to manufacture margin to create as many profitable products as possible. And remember, you don't find items good, you make them good. Test really wide right now. No need to buy too heavy on unproven SKUs. When you buy heavy on proven SKUs, is going to be December 5th to the 20th. The peak of the entire year, which is a mad rush to keep your best ASINs in stock. This is also a great time to increase your shipping costs for next day 2-day, and expedited orders from like $30 plus $1 per pound, like $50 or 45. Amazon is a weird way of policing it for different people. But it's not like there's no serious consequence to it. They just tell you to lower the cost a little bit. For example, I got one of those emails the other day right there. Buy deep when the market tells you to, when stuff sells really well. No need to buy heavy on unproven stuff. It's a huge mistake a lot of people make. December 20th to January 5th is like the cool down period. That's when some of you guys are watching this free course for the first time too. As well, when the market slows down on your specific ASIN, each ASIN's unique, is when you want to go ahead and take your foot off the gas with FBM, right? If they continue to be good, keep pumping, right? And then in January, back to Boxum 2D barcode shipments as well. I always get the question, what products sell best during Q4? This is not the question to be asked, right? Everything sells better during Q4, especially anything that's giftable, right? Do not source for Q4. Instead, focus on leads that are profitable today and sell quick. Don't speculate that items are going to go up in price. That's a great way to take on unnecessary risk and then let people compete with you that paid less for those products or buying them Black Friday, Cyber Monday, for example. So no need to buy stuff ahead of time. You typically end up overpaying and you mess up your cash flow. Focus on stuff that's profitable today. Toys, shoes, clothing, seasonal grocery, sporting goods, beauty, all that stuff's going to do better. But really understand, guys, everything does better. Focus on whatever you can find profitable, right? Many sellers think the answer is finding the best products when, truth be told, everything sells well, and their answer is simply whatever you are very effective at finding a lot of stuff profitably. And if this is your first Q4, focus on doubling down on what's already done well for you and then scaling out from their storefront stocking, right? How do you actually do product research most effectively? Do not just go to random unproven websites and look in their sales section. It should be very obvious when it's time to do manual sourcing somewhere, right? Because it's a site that you've already made good money on and then you see the deal comes back. Instead, focus on storefront stocking for pre-vetted items with sellers that got like 20 plus reviews, for example. Storefront stocking is king and it introduces you to new websites and new brands that you can already see people making money on Amazon. Then use manual sourcing once you have proof that a deal is good. I have lots of tutorials showing you guys how to do storefront stocking, and in the timestamps below, you can hop around to any of those right there if you haven't already watched those. So you probably have if you made it into this deep in the free course, for example. Product research moats, guys. Really, really remember, you don't find items good, you make them good. Now, you guys have heard me say this several times throughout the free course, and it's just because it's where so many beginners go wrong. So go through this checklist for every retailer, guys. Do they take tax exempt, right? Can you use a reseller certificate, right? Are there any discounted gift cards, right? Are there any coupon codes that just pop up or show on the screen when you go to that retail, right? And you want to combine as many of these as possible. Do Coupon Birds or Capital One Shopping show any coupons, right? Those free Chrome extensions are really, really helpful. Is there a big sale going on and can I stack on additional discounts? Is it July Prime Day or October Prime Day or Mother's Day, Father's Day, Labor Day, Easter, right? When's the next holiday going on? Do they have a bulk program or do they offer subscribe and save? Right? One really good website I was buying from recently, they have a really good deal, but there's also a 20% code and there's good discounted gift cards you can use on that as well. Is this item above 20 bucks, but well below £1? From which case I should use the SellerAmp merchant fulfilled calculator where I can go ahead and scroll down and take a look there, right? As long as there's other merch filled sellers on that list. In terms of merch filled shipping supplies, you guys know that by now, but just 9x12 and 12x15 poly mailers are key from Amazon, boxes from Uline or Walmart, and those free shipping labels from UPS right there as well. Your merchant fulfilled shipping templates are really important too. There's 5 different options you should have activated right there. Economy, standard, 1 day, 2 day, and expedited shipping right there. I'd recommend doing free shipping for standard and economy orders, and then for 1 day, 2 day, and expedited orders right there, like $30 plus $1 per pound, raise it into December as we go. Merch filled sourcing is really important too, that you use that merch filled calculator on SellerAmp. I've shown you guys that a couple times where you scroll down and filter out of FBM. Here's that shipping cost guide if you don't already have this saved right here as well. Above one labor, it tends to be like, 9 to 11 plus, for example, occasionally 13, right? That's the estimate. You want to go off there. That takes into account the shipping supplies as well. Typically stuff under £1 is going to be in a polymer, which are like 4 cents each, for example, and stuff above £1 are typically going to be around a box. For example, right there, this is an example of the FBM calculator. When you scroll down and toggle it to FBM right there, is very, very important. You can find the weight in the quick info page on SellerAmp as well. Right here, many items will actually do better merch filled. You just have to take the time to actually check the calculator. You don't know if you don't see it. And then if you're using SellerAmp for storefront stalking product research wise, if you want to find other good products to merge field, just go ahead, scroll down to the list of offers on SellerAmp and click the other merge filled sellers. They're going to have other merge filled listings that people are making money on. Other important merge filled tips, just pre-packaging FBM orders is a great efficiency hack. Always add max order quantities to your items to avoid black hat sellers buying all your stock and then canceling it so they can get the buy box. That doesn't really happen as much anymore, but it did used to be a big issue. If you just search like how to set max order quantities, Amazon FBA in ChatGPT, it'll show you exactly how to do it right there. That basically just adds a max order quantity so people can't see your stock. It hides your stock nicely or buy all your stock at one time. USPS and UPS pickups on Pirate Ship are very helpful as well. Really no need to include the packing slips, honestly, on there for merch filled orders right there. Black Friday, Cyber Monday sauce. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's like a week-long period. For example, I'm actually filming this in Black Friday 2024. A lot of deals do go into December. And even if the deal gets a little bit worse once Black Friday ends, once Cyber Monday ends, for example, typically every website has some way you can get a pretty good discount. So even if an item you pay 10% more for it, but it goes up in price by 17%, like tons of products do in December, it still ends up being super, super efficient and even more profitable in those cases. Repricing effectively, guys. So, it makes sense to get a repricer once you got like 10 plus ASINs in your store right there. And once something's selling really well for you, test a higher price on it and see if you keep getting buy box. You're not guaranteed to keep getting buy box, but you might a dollar higher, $2 higher, and you don't know till you test. You can easily re-get it back at that original buy box price if you need to as well, right? Retail arbitrage and pickup orders are a massive, underrated, and personally one of my favorite secret weapons during Q4, just to take advantage of speed and flexibility at a high level. The average OA purchase, even if you pay for expedited shipping, which is totally not necessary, but some websites it's so cheap it makes sense to, they still take like 2 to 7 days to arrive, right? Which means you can't get that product on the market till it comes in. But with retail arbitrage or buy online, pick up in stores, I've done tons of damage at Kohl's and Dick's Sporting Goods, for example. With those, you can get the product in hand way quicker and get that thing listed, get that thing moving, merch filled, and then restocked way faster right there as well, right? Retail arbitrage is not just going place and scanning. Pickup orders, which is a form of retail arbitrage, they literally just bring the product out to you. And I would drive to my local Dick's Sporting Goods sometimes, pick up 50 units, 100 units, and then just drive to the post office and FBM it all because I knew I had them placed on pickup order and I had sold them overnight when they were reserved in pickup order, for example, too. Always important to diversify risk, guys, and never have too many eggs in one basket, one specific product, buying from one specific supplier too much, or have too much over your catalog in one brand right there as well. And then who wins the most during Q4, guys? The sellers who take Q4 very serious. The sellers who are super well connected in the community, who have some other Amazon seller friends they met in our free Discord or in the community on Instagram or on the community on Twitter, for example, that hit retail arbitrage hard, that hit pickup orders hard, that are watching their pricing daily and raising prices when they can. That's who wins Q4 the most, right? Unloading the clip, going hard, doing pickup orders. If you have a 9 to 5 job, see if you can take off somewhere between December 5th and December 20th to have more time to merch fill. And overall, your priorities are where your time go. And this is a great time to make a ton of money selling products on Amazon. It's the easiest time of the year. Make sure you step up to the plate, taking as much advantage of Q4 as possible. 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your ASINs, but you need to test a lot of different stuff to get there. Demand's way up, competition's way down, prices are through the roof, and the sellers who are connected and stay flexible are going to make the most money. So that's Q4 and merch filled tips right there. I know it got a little technical, maybe a little bit confusing on some of that merch filled stuff. Rewind this if you need to. You can watch this slower pace and let me know any questions in the comments as well. That's Q4 and merch filled tips. I also want to talk to you guys about some of my biggest hits that I've ever had in my Amazon business. The first one was right when I initially got started. There was this shoe we were absolutely hammering that was super high margin, and I literally got introduced to it via a Zoom call with some other sellers that I met on Instagram, and that was super game-changing and eye-opening to see just how much money just a couple ASINs could make when you can sell a few dozen of them a day across a bunch of different sizes, specifically in the shoe niche. Another cool thing about the shoe niche was that the average sale price tends to be really high, the ASP, so you can sell only a couple units and actually make a ton of profit. in the process. So that was my first really, really big hit, was just immediately finding some other sellers and finding that shoe ASIN and absolutely hammering hard. There was also this cool Bolo product. It's called the Flow Bee. It's like a classic retro hair clipper, for example, too, that we were buying for like 150 and selling for 300 to 250 to 300 on Amazon, making like 50 to 75 bucks profit piece. And that was what really taught me a very interesting lesson, guys, is don't worry about the products, worry about the data. Whether or not you think a product's gonna be profitable, whether or not you think a product's gonna sell quick, doesn't matter. It all focuses on what the data actually shows. Another thing that did really, really well for me right from the get-go that's actually pretty interesting was going to outlet malls and getting stuff listed immediately merch fulfilled. The great thing about the local outlet malls you might have locally to you is that they actually don't have much competition, most likely, and you can choose to also be better than your competition too. Go to the store more often. Get to know the employees. Really just entrench yourself in the local economy, for example, and learn the different discount codes. Learn when they're putting out different products, when they add in new discounts, for example, and going to outlets and getting stuff listed quick. FBM was just such a game changer because I could just get stuff to market so much quicker, and it was only like 30 minutes away. So if I went in the morning and something did really well, I would just go back at night and restock it, even if I had just gotten a couple sales. That's why it's so important to get products on the market, test very light, and then replenish products ASAP when you can. And retail arbitrage and pickup orders are a great way to go ahead and do that. So if you got local outlets to you, make sure you take advantage of those. That first Q4, I had a huge lick from a website that used to exist called eSpay. The interesting thing was I was actually getting order cancels, and pretty much everyone I knew was getting order cancels on eSpay. But there was this specific item that I would make like $5 to $7 profit on a piece that had several variations on it. And if I could get a bunch of them in hand, they would sell like hotcakes instantly during Q4. So what I did was, they were obviously order canceling, and a lot of people thought they were banned, but I was like, oh, there's got to be a way to get these orders through. So I identified in their system that if I placed one order per day with a different credit card, a slightly changed address, a different email, right there, those were the three variables that if I placed unique orders with unique details on all those, I would actually get through. I ended up making like 10 grand profit just from that one supplier that a lot of other people were getting banned on. So there's a super interesting lesson, is that getting banned is a very subjective term, for example. If you're able to get around those order cancels, you can make a ton of extra profit. Now, if you're a newer seller, don't worry about order cancels till they happen on specific sites. A ton of new sellers waste tons of time thinking to themselves, does this website order cancel? It doesn't matter. Even if you get order cancels, you can go ahead and get around them, typically in most cases, just switching up the information, switching up the payment details. For example, too, using Google Pay and Apple Pay is a great way to get around order cancels as well, too. Just kind of getting around whatever that specific retailer thinks. And sometimes with order cancels, they just think you're doing fraud. So if you get an order cancel on a specific website, just hit them up and be like, hey, like, why did this order get canceled? You know, I'm a legit person. I'm happy to provide business information right there. And sometimes it's just an anti-fraud system. So I've had some huge licks during Q4 being able to get around websites that other people think are canceling heavy, when I was able to get around those cancels and make a bunch of profit. You'll also notice there's a big theme with a lot of stuff, is that I did everything, and I see Amazon selling as just a group project, right? Find people you get along with that you can work on this stuff with together. That's something I do with my coaching students often, is I put together group chats of people to help them get optimal results, because it just makes it a lot more fun. But during back to school, I made a ton of money selling backpacks that I was just, working on different restocks, for example, on different retailers with my friends. And we would just be super tapped into when different products were restocked. We'd all ping each other in the group chats, in the discords, know when different restocks were happening, and we were able to absolutely dominate and take stock on different retailers, sourcing these different backpacks during Q4. I didn't do any backpacks retail arbitrage during back school. I totally should have that first year or two, but definitely doing all-in arbitrage and being able to attack different restocks, for example, was super, super helpful. Most products aren't going in and out of stock. Some definitely do, though, and having a squad of homies to go at it with made it a lot more fun and a lot more doable, and that I would literally just get notified of different products restocking from different people I met on Instagram, just, through group chats, literally, less than a year prior. We were all printing internet money together. That's how the world works in 2025, guys. I've mostly always stuck to my shoe and clothing lane pretty well, even back in the day doing merch field, eventually scaling up to having my own warehouse, and then starting to use prep centers as well so I could move down to Miami. But I have done pretty well with some toy buy and holds over the years, which are a pretty interesting model, basically where toys and like Legos, for example, tend to have like a 2 year lifespan when like different new movies and different series come out, for example. And if you buy stuff discounted near the end of the expiration of the cycle, for example, you can make a ton of money, for example, just holding them to where they go up. You can look at like some Lego Friends Keep It charts and you'll see that. You'll see that specifically. That the same thing also happens like buying Legos right before Q4 and banking on Amazon selling out. So I have done well for that. I don't currently recommend that to beginners. I don't recommend Amazon to Amazon flips for beginners. I just think there's too much competition with that kind of stuff. But I do want to be transparent about some stuff that has worked really well for me. And toys during Q4 has been phenomenal, especially buying stuff near the end of its expiration cycle, which tend to be about 2 years. You can see past Keep It charts when Amazon was in stock, and then if Amazon goes out of stock, the price goes to the moon. The third party seller count plummets as everyone's selling out. So I have cleaned up with some of that stuff over the years too. But overall, what's done best and most consistently for me is the shoe and clothing niche. There's tons of different brands that have thousands of different items per brand. One good pair of shorts might have 30 different variations across colors and sizes. If you can find one of them good, you might be able to find 4 different variations to go ahead and purchase. I recently found a hoodie that had like 7 different profitable variations. So literally for sourcing one item, I ended up having 7 different ASINs to go on. And some items that have done really well for me over the years have even had multiple listings for the same product that you can see, specifically is the same item right there. So that's done really well. But overall, the big thing I want you guys to take away from this is just how important it is to really make items profitable and really focusing on storefront stalking, just looking for proven, vetted stuff you can see other people making money on and go ahead and make that stuff profitable. You don't really find stuff good. Sometimes you do, but you mainly make that stuff profitable using all those different discount methods. So at this point, you guys have seen me break down a lot of what goes into being a successful Amazon seller. I've also made some massive mistakes on my own personal journey too. So I just want to walk you guys through some of those main mistakes. And the first one totally being, if you listen to my story part specifically, was not getting ungated sooner because I just didn't know any better. I didn't know that you can get ungated using retail receipts. So back in 2021, that was a major game changer once I got some of those major brands unlocked and started moving products in my store immediately. I originally thought that you could only get like some like approval once you sold a certain amount of products that you can now start getting a bunch of stuff ungated. I didn't know that you could just rock and roll in and submit purchase documentation right from the get-go, even as a newer seller. So that was just my own naiveness, for example, cost me a ton of money. And really just not knowing how to ungate was a major mistake I made. Luckily, you guys have all watched this video. You guys are all probably joining the free Discord at the link in the description. You're getting tapped into the stuff and you know a lot of stuff that I wish I knew when I started. Another mistake I made too when I was a newer seller was not starting to do FBA earlier as well. I was really doing all FBM primarily, and that screwed me over after back to school season. And it also screwed me over when I went on vacation a couple times. That like I would always hear people talk about the beauty of FBA being able to sell products and not even needing to fulfill the individual orders, but I didn't take advantage of that as much as I should have myself. So now that I do mostly FBA, I should have known that and started doing that sooner and really just listened honestly to the sellers that were beyond me telling me you shouldn't just do FBM forever. Alongside that too, I've totally made the mistake of not going wide enough and buying too much of unproven products. That's why test orders are so important, guys. Starting out with 2 to 10 unit orders for all of your products, and then eventually as you build confidence, you learn what a good lead is that's protected behind certain discounts that lead to having, significantly less competition. You end up finding replenishable products you can go ahead to and rebuy to scale over time. And that's how you scale up your business, guys. And that don't buy too deep on one specific product and always leverage test orders. And then over time, you get really good at finding stuff. You have stuff you can restock. You're also finding new stuff because you're getting a lot better. One thing I did do really well though was not going and delegating too soon. I do see a lot of people that delegate too soon. They try to get a, virtual assistant quick, for example. You don't gotta worry about that. Just focus on buying and selling, keeping it simple. That is something I did really well. I just should have tested wider and broadened my catalog and then gone deep once the market told me to. And I did get burned on a couple products buying too heavily, which is why test orders are so important. The Amazon community is so helpful, and I did a decent job of getting myself involved with it quick, but I still wish I did more, and I think I could have met a lot more people a lot quicker, especially during that period when I was just selling used books on Amazon. I didn't know as many Amazon sellers as I should. I wasn't deeply connected enough with the Amazon community as I should have been. And then once I made that decision, once I got a couple of those ungates done, I started documenting my journey heavily. I met a ton of cool Amazon sellers really, really quick. And if I had that year sooner, I would have had a lot more success faster and I would have known how to get ungated faster. So you also hear me talk about that in the networking section in a little bit, but that's so important. What Amazon sellers you know determine the results you get. And a lot of Amazon sellers don't know any other Amazon sellers, even though online is free. All this stuff is completely free. And that really screws them over long term because the people you're competing against are having Amazon seller conversations all day and having a lot of fun. The way I imagine it is that like succeeding selling on Amazon is like a test you can cheat on, but a lot of beginner sellers, even though they know they can work with, network with, and mastermind with other sellers, they're not doing it because they're afraid to get online and put their journey out there. And this is another huge mistake I made was I didn't think online arbitrage was scalable. And I tend to be the type of guy who's pretty open-minded, for example, but when I was starting with online arbitrage, no one was talking about doing six-figure months. No one was talking about doing 20K profit months. And literally in my first year of doing online arbitrage, I had a $50,000 profit month. I thought wholesale and private label were the only options, so much so that I literally stopped doing online arbitrage for like a week in June of 2021 and started calling wholesalers when I had tons of profitable inventory I could go ahead and buy. And then once I actually started buying said profitable inventory, my Amazon business grew a lot faster than people that didn't think online arbitrage was scalable. And I really just overcame those limiting beliefs. I went from doing like 30K in revenue in my second month of online arbitrage to like 300K in revenue just like 10 months later. They completely changed my life. Don't listen to the rules. There are no rules, guys. This is online business. This is the wild, wild west. Create your own lane, stick to it, and make as much money as possible. So now you guys know the mistakes I made scaling up my Amazon business. I also want you guys to be able to learn from the mistakes and the successes of some other successful Amazon sellers too. So we're about to show you guys several different interviews with successful sellers I've done on my YouTube channel that I want you guys to be able to learn from and soak up some gain from as well. Awesome Amazon sellers that have probably done what you guys are looking to do if you're this, late in the free course, for example, right here, going from complete beginners, no experience to successfully make money online selling name brand products on Amazon. So let's jump right into the first student success interview. What's up? We got the man Aaron, 0 Day Handling Time, joining us today. What are your trailing 30 days on Amazon, Aaron?
The trailing 30 right now, it's 181, 182, right around there.
So well over 20,000 in profit, right? From remotely, because you're in Thailand right now, right?
I did recently just get to Thailand.
Boom.
Yes,
So super gangster, right? Running the remote, online arbitrage business. Very aspirational for a lot of people watching this. Where were you at, just a year ago? I know you weren't even selling on Amazon yet, but like just what was going on in your life basically, prior to getting going to this stuff?
I had a job, 9 to 5. I was working every day. But 1 year ago, I was just moving furniture on military bases.
Yep. And so conveniently, you also had some, good traveling experience. You had seen different ways of life. You're starting to look into making money online as most people are as well. Talk through those first couple months, man, because didn't you do over 100K in revenue just in December alone, which was like your fourth month, your third full month or something?
Yeah. It was my third full month. So initially, Amazon just started as a side hustle. Like in between my work jobs for my 9 to 5, I would have time at home. So during my time at home, I was like, I'm not working. Let me try to make some money online. So from all the different online businesses, I chose Amazon FBA. And, my first month was like 7K watching your content. I was a ghost account on Twitter. Second month, I posted the video, started talking to Parker, started really engaging with the community, and I doubled from the first month. The third month, I joined your coaching, the great community inside there. And I met some people that helped me elevate my business, more sourcing websites, brands, whatever. And after 3 months of, talking to people, testing products out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, in December, my fourth month, I was able to do 100K.
Boom, which is beautiful, which is, over 20,000 bucks profit, because during back to school and Q4, profit margins tend to go up a little bit too. And I think so. It's, a really good testament to sticking around for a little while though, right? Because like most people try this for a month or two, really don't even give themselves time to get lucky, time to experiment or anything like that. And pretty much no one gets immediate results. but a lot of people that stick around for the long term do. And that's why that mindset's, so important, man. So what does it feel like, right? To have completely, done like a 180, right? Gone from, you know, not really making money in an ideal way, at least based on, what you've said, to now being able to travel, being able to do what you want, and having, a good online business that you worked super hard and, super deserve.
Yeah. So really what it feels like right now, I have more motivation to keep going
Yeah, put the foot on the gas.
then whenever I started, like when I started with Amazon, I was like, oh, it's just a side hustle. Like I'll do it here, internet money. You know, I'll do it when I do it. But now I'm like this is really real, you know? Like I do DM setting too. Recently it's been taking a fair amount of my time, but that's also something that I would not have found if I didn't engage within the Amazon community. So getting in with the Amazon community has opened more doors for me.
I was literally going to bring up that point about like doors opening and how, like, you get into this, like, man, maybe I can make a little bit of money on the side. But then you start digging in a little bit, right? You start building a little
Yeah.
expertise, right? And that, like, that's probably similar to how, like, a lot of professional athletes or people who really got really into other stuff, you just try it out. You click with enough stuff, and then eventually something ends up being very successful, right?
Yeah.
So talk about in those first couple months, man, like what really kept you going? What helped you find that initial momentum? Because I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, is those couple little moments where 20 of one product sells in a day, or just a couple of something sells in the first couple hours. Like what kept you going, and what was the real moment where you're like, damn, man, I can do this stuff?
And one thing that did keep me going was definitely the community, because even whenever I was small, like a few $1,000s like a week, like even if I only had 5 FBM packages, you could scroll back on my media and you could see I'm posting these FBM this on my way to the post office, and just the engagement, people like Parker. I mentioned Parker because me and him, like, now we talk every day, like we make money together. But in the beginning, he was just some random person that was just giving me tips. We was helping each other out.
And it's interesting because technically everyone starts out as just some random person, right?
Yeah.
Even in real life, you know what I mean? You meet people, you vibe, right? But you just have so many more shots on goal when you're giving yourself a chance to get lucky meeting people on the internet too, which is conveniently free as well, right? So for the person who like is like, all right, man, like I know I need to do this. I know it's going to be more helpful if I meet some people online. I just don't really know what to do, right? What was your best piece of advice in terms of getting started with the community and networking?
Okay. So the obvious one is, posting. Videos is super helpful, but a lot of people don't want to do that. But if you can do like pictures, at least posting regularly, people will know you're active. You're trying to make a change. You're trying to get groups, source products, whatever. But in terms of actually meeting people, I used to slide into a lot of DMs back in the day, and it would always be one of two things. Like I would slide in the DM with a compliment, like something I see them post is like, hey, any type of compliment. So a compliment, and the other thing would be advice. So if I see they're struggling with something, if I see I can maybe help out, we can help each other out. Those two things is a super organic and natural way to meet people in the internet.
Boom.
And
Bingo.
yeah,
Right there. And it's as simple as that, right? And most people aren't even doing anything, right? So, you get the ball rolling, then you figure stuff out. It's the same thing with selling on Amazon. So, specifically on the product research side of things these days, are you doing wholesale as well, predominantly online arbitrage? What's the current business setup?
I tapped into a little bit of wholesale earlier this year, and in terms of the cash flow and the lead time and the cash intensivity, I think I just created that word. It's very cash intensive.
Yeah.
Cash intensive. So for the rest of this year, I'm gonna grind out OA, keep turning that cash over. The profit margin's better. There's less lead time. The cash flow's better. So for the rest of this year, we're just grinding out OA.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, like, a lot of people that don't really do any type of volume with OA will tell me that OA isn't scalable, right? And then you see, like, my biggest month was 480. It looks like your biggest trailing 30 days probably what the 180 right now, and just
Yeah.
getting into back to school, so it's going to be, significantly better than that. And so talk through what it looks like to run the Amazon business remotely, because a lot of people kind of fantasize over that, but they don't know what it actually looks like day to day. What's a prep center like? Break down how you're able to run the operation from another country, even though you've lived in the States for most of your life.
Yeah. So first thing is first. First thing is first. It is not passive income. but
Far from it, man.
but
Far from it.
yeah, far from it. And really nothing is. But so I just recently actually got a VA. I was already traveling for about a month before I got my first VA, but I just got one, splitting it with a friend. I've been talking to people like Deke, Max,
Oh, that are awesome with that.
and
Yeah, that makes
yeah, and I'm trying to get like what's really the best way I can make them use of their time.
Yep.
So I got a lot of missing shipments right now. They're going through right now, getting that sorted away. But I also just recently got a sourcing VA. I know what people are gonna think. Oh, like you don't want to source, you're lazy, whatever. The sourcing VA, I just split with a different person because we're gonna try something out. Like they're gonna be sourcing their own, brands, products, um, categories with our requirement. And I just want to see, what brands they bring, what products, what websites, and see if they can open my mind to anything that I am not seeing. So I figure if they can at least make their money back, especially if they're making me money, I think it's a W because it's going to open my mind to new products, new brands. So I have the admin VA, I have the sourcing VA, and am with a prep center. So that was a very big step in me scaling.
Yeah, how does that actually work though? Because a lot of people won't be familiar with the prep center model.
Okay, if you start anything like me, like you're all FBM. Like my first 25K sales was all FBM. So, it's cool. The profit's good, profit's a little better, but it takes way more time. And one, you have to actually be there, so you can't do it remote.
Yep.
But with the prep center, basically all the stuff you would send to your house, you just send it to the prep center and log it into your sheet. They receive it. Yes, we got it. No, we didn't. And they send it off. Getting a prep center in the beginning, it's kind of like overwhelming, especially when you're new to it. But once, it's just like anything. It's like riding a bike, like after a while, it just becomes second nature. And the prep center played a really big role in me personally being able to scale. And the one thing I will add is I was in a tax state, 7%. So it made sense for me to go ahead and get that. But if you're in Oregon or, Delaware, if you're willing to put in the work, you can make extra profit not getting a prep center.
Profit with that. Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people kind of see mature Amazon businesses like yours is these days with lots of good delegation. But when you start, man, it was totally this way for me. You're waking up and you're finding stuff you can merch fulfill, right? And that's it. You're fulfilling every order yourself, right? And that lets you move hella quick though, right? It's like, what was really attractive and why'd you do so much FBM and why'd you even adopt, the username that is very FBM?
Yeah. Look, one thing I'll add to is like a lot of the people, look, I've no way made it like at all. Some people, they might see it on the outside looking in. They think I'm like successful or whatever. I'm like really good at sourcing. It's really not the truth. Like I started out just like a regular person. Like I was in a Nike outlet on the regular. I was driving to all these places, scanning the Nike outlet. Like I wasn't even really doing OA. I was just like scanning the Nike outlet. And Parker too. Parker, he started in Walmart scanning the clearance section. You know what I mean? Like I think it's a natural way for the Amazon seller to mature is to kind of start out with like RA, testing stuff here, FBM this, and then the more knowledge you compound and the more people you talk with, it just opens your mind to different OA ways to make money.
Yeah, and it's also significantly easier to understand. There's less fancy couponing involved, right? And it lets you get stuff in hand same day too. Same thing with merch field. It lets you get stuff listed so much quicker, right?
Yeah.
And so speaking about things that open your mind, fourth quarter, right? So you had a massive fourth quarter. This is interestingly enough, this is your first back to school, right? But talk about taking advantage of those seasonal opportunities, man, because this is coming up, only your second big seasonal opportunity. It's a lot of people that are watching this, their first time rolling around. They want to be prepared for back to school. They want to be prepared for Q4. Talk through, what that's really like and what you learned from your first Q4.
What I learned from my first Q4 was, and there's a lot of mixed emotions on this. Some people say networking is more important. Some people say sourcing is more important. Everything, like the truth is, everything works for different people. But for me personally, my first Q4, networking was way more important because of those seasonal items. And if you can find a group of guys, everyone's looking different directions, different websites for this seasonal item. That's like 4 eyes versus your, just you. So you find a lot of products quicker. Stuff you would have never even bought, you find yourself buying because of the network.
Yep.
So I'm going to be doing the same here for back to school. I already have a decent amount of inventory for back to school. It's going to be heavy seasonal items. I'm in the lab, if you will, with the boys, trying to divinate the future. And I'm gonna have a record month this back to school for sure. And another thing too is the keeper charts. They do not lie.
They do not lie, bro.
I would.
Women lie.
I would. Facts. Like I wouldn't 100% like be like, okay, that's gonna happen this year. But if it's a seasonal item and it's done the same thing multiple years in a row, and it's something you and a few guys have conviction on, the keeper chart just don't lie.
Yeah, test it out light, man. Hop in there, FBM, right? FBM lets you restock really quick too. And you just want to build that proof of concept, be able to take advantage of future seasonal opportunities too, because this is something you'll be doing for multiple years, if you're getting going with the stuff. So you want to build a nice base, proof of concept, etc. As we finish up here, if you could go back a year ago and talk to old Aaron, who was not yet the 0-day handling time on Twitter, who didn't already, wasn't, pumping already, what are you telling him?
I would tell them, this is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you have even a little brain and you are willing to put in the work, not only sourcing, but also networking, give yourself a year, actually grinding for a year. And I guarantee you, if you're networking, you're sourcing, you got a positive mindset, and the mindset's huge. Like, if you can't believe you can't do it, like you've already lost.
If you can't believe you can't do it, I completely agree. Yeah.
But the main thing is engage with the community and actually put in the work. Because if you don't, you can't want 100K month and then act like someone who only does 20K months, not sourcing, not talking to people. So honestly, just engage with the community. It's cliche, super cliche.
But no one does
but
it, man.
It compounds. Look, this shit is like interest rates. This shit, like the network, learning what websites, seasonal items, learning Amazon. This shit is like interest rates. Like it compounds. Yep. Day by day, it can be discouraging. You don't feel like you're getting anywhere.
Oh, because you suck at this stuff when you start. Yeah, you're terrible at selling on Amazon when you start.
So you give yourself a week. You're like, damn, I haven't got anywhere.
Yep.
But it compounds. It's interest rates. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, that interest has accrued.
Yep. And then so where can people follow you on social media if they want to catch up and see more of your documenting your journey, your travels, some banter here and there?
Yeah. So check me out. Twitter, 0-day handle time. Instagram, 0-day handle time. Yeah, feel free to hit me up. The community is honestly one of the best.
If y'all get any ungating questions, you send it to this man right there. Send over the ungating questions right there. Appreciate you coming on once again, Aaron. Keep up the great work, and thanks everyone for listening. What's up, Dan? Welcome to the channel.
What up? How we doing?
Yeah, so just 2 years ago, you were a complete beginner in July of 2022. You sent me a really funny DM on Twitter. I remember it. So you want to just kind of talk through that DM story and then what you've done since then?
Yeah, so this was fresh off college graduation, about to step into the 9-to-5 world, had the job lined up and everything. And I went on a bit of a senior week vacation that was pretty expensive, Ocean City, Maryland, for 10 days, and kind of looked at how much I spent during those 10 days, living exactly how I wanted to, and then what my salary was going to be. And just definitely would not have paid for a 10-day vacation like I would have wanted. And so I had kind of been following you on Twitter for a little bit at this point. Never really trusted the online courses or anything like that. I'd always been in kind of that area of Twitter and all that. But since I knew you from Dickinson a little bit through some mutual friends, like, all right, I know this guy. just fired off a DM, bought the course the day I got back from the vacation. Say, hey man, like just bought your course, like any tips? And then you responded right away, which I was like, oh, like let's go. And you told me if I got Nike ungated in the next 48 hours, you'd send me my first couple products. And I remember like going up to my parents, still lived at home at the time. I like went up to my parents like, yo, like I'm about to get products from this guy. I just bought the course. This is great. Like I got this, I'm already gonna this is gonna be so easy. So got that Nike Ungate. You sent me a few products, and from there it kind of just took off. I got involved in July, which was right before back to school. So I mean,
Big, yeah, perfect timing right now for people as well.
you'll probably remember that East Bay sale a few years ago when they were.
Legendary, man. We got the $12 slides. $12 slides was
Oh
big.
man,
$24 hoodies as well, right?
it was such a game changer. Like, and so and it was actually kind of funny too, because then like a month after that was like my first big sale, was that East Bay sale. And I'd buy like 100 of a SKU that was selling like 2,000-3,000 times a month, and I'd sell through it in a day and a half, and I'd be like, oh my god, if I just like bought 1,000, like imagine I'd have a month and a half, 2 months of really good inventory. So yeah, I mean, to sum it all up though, yeah, that's how the initial Twitter thing went. He sent me a couple products, and I went through the course, and yeah, I mean, things just kept catapulting, expanding from there. So
Yeah, and then so you're doing big numbers now, but you're doing wholesale as well, right? So what are your trailing 30 days on Amazon?
trailing 30 days is a little over 300K. Definitely trying to beat out last Q4's numbers, which is still the record for a 30-day period, which was just under 400,000. And yeah, I definitely think between now and the end of the year should be trying to hit that pretty much every month, and even a little more when we get to Q4.
And break down what that actually looks like, though, in terms of your current setup. Because when you get started, you buy a couple things here and there. You're a little nervous to buy heavy, as you should be. You want to be
Yep.
testing nice and light. And you list some stuff merchant fulfilled. It's sitting next to you in your bedroom. That is a far cry from what your operation looks like today, right? So break down kind of the online arbitrage and wholesale setup with the prep centers, any virtual assistants, stuff like that.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I actually don't have any VAs at the moment, which people are typically pretty surprised by. Which I think is one of the appeals to wholesale, is because once you get, that good 2-3 accounts, the time invested in the business becomes very minimal. Because really the whole day or the only hours that you really do need to put in that are working towards the core business. Obviously I still deal with the authenticity complaints, stuff like that. But again, in wholesale, it's so much easier just to go to one place to grab all your receipts from the past 365 days. And then the only other really main feature of the business is just obviously going on and finding more wholesale accounts, which I'm happy to drop some sauce on as well later. Kind of the strategy I use for that. I still use a prep center, which is probably a little abnormal for someone at my scale. I mean, I'm sending anywhere from 10 to 12,000 units a month. But kind of my point in life, I want to travel. We were just talking about it. I'd kind of been doing a couple months in different cities, seeing which ones I like the best. So definitely not ideal to have a warehouse or trying to run a warehouse at the same time. And yeah, as far as like softwares, the OGs, the seller amps, the Keepas, all that stuff still works really well for me. Still super key in every single decision I make. And yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of the general setup that I'm using right now. And yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting math because typically to do wholesale at scale, you have to have your own warehouse, just the way the math breaks down, right? Because for those of you guys who are unfamiliar, most wholesale products are cheaper, which means it's very expensive to pay even $1 a unit, $1.50 a unit prep cost. But the key is that I know you operate in some more expensive wholesale products, which gives you the room to
Absolutely.
offer that and everything, right? So obviously, great wholesale setup. I know you're still doing a lot of OA though as well, right?
I'll dabble here and there. I didn't do it for a while actually. And
Get fancy on us, man. Get
yeah,
cute on us. But then it's easy,
yeah,
certain seasonally if you build the skill,
yeah.
which is difficult to do, obviously.
It was funny. I don't think I did any OA from like maybe last April or May to like this April or May. And then just through the network and everything, a couple people got me back into a sale. I was like, I missed this. So now, here and there I will do a little OA. But it's definitely less than 10% of probably my total sales output every month.
Yeah, our friend Sawyer, he does a similar model where like certain
Yeah.
seasons he'll hit OA heavy, but then wholesale predominantly makes up the
Q4 this year,
majority.
it just makes too much sense with the deals that happen to not, dabble a little bit in OA. But I mean, yeah, generally, just not that's not kind of the main direction I'm working towards. Is still just like trying to work directly with brands and really the biggest initiative too right now that's taking up most of my time as well is just adding more platforms. I don't think I've talked to you about this at all specifically yet, but Walmart
Yeah,
finally.
what's that like? Yeah, because a lot of people are interested in that too.
It's just it's so difficult to gauge, because the softwares are like 10 years behind where they're at on Amazon. Like, so I basically just got every single Walmart software that had any type of good reviews, and I just have all of them, and I'm comparing them whenever I go to a product page. Um, my biggest way to scale velocity on Amazon is the bought past month, because that's data that comes directly from Amazon. If you know what I'm talking about, I'll say like 50 plus or 100
It'll
plus bought.
show it at the top. Yeah.
Yep. So that's always just how I've gauged velocity for Amazon, like, beyond like the initial like estimated sales and sales ranks and stuff that all play a part as well. But Walmart doesn't really have anything like that yet. But most similar thing is they'll have a certain amount bought in the past day, which their minimum is 100 plus bought in the past day. So obviously, really only the items that are just really doing crazy numbers on Walmart you can get velocity for. So that's kind of been the strategy that I've looked for on Walmart for the first couple of things is just tried to find ones that have that, bought in the past day number. And then, the thing is too, it just becomes easy when you have suppliers that, there's huge name brand products that just don't work margin wise on Amazon, but the referral fees are half of what they are on Amazon. The prep is unbelievably easier for WFS shipments. So all that kind of stuff, like it's just like, you just have to get the same thing with Amazon. You just have to get a couple products listed, and then it's
To get
easy to
the
keep
feel, to
things
get the
there.
muscle.
It's like, man, like that sold pretty fast actually. Like, and then it becomes much easier when you already have the data in front of you to see like, okay, like this works. It is a pain in the ass to figure out all their different systems of how to list products, WFS shipments, which again, happy to help anyone. My Instagram handles on this call as well. So, shoot me a DM. Just helped someone the other day, get their product set up. So,
Yeah, and a really important thing, especially about when you started, was it was right before back to school and Q4, which similarly, a lot of people watching this video this time of year are going to go through the same process. Obviously, your results are not typical. You figured it out really, really quick. So, talk about some of those big inflection points in terms like what was really helpful about getting started this time of year, and like any aha moments you had specifically during August, during back to school, or during November and December during the peak of Q4 when it's the biggest time of the year and it's completely normal to do 50% of your volume for the entire year just between October, November, December.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was certainly just the FBM ability of Q or back to school and then into Q4, where I was running around picking up backpacks RA actually that I already knew worked because I maybe they had like 20 at Kohl's or something, and so I'd go to the gym and there was like a different Kohl's than the one that's typically closer to me, so I'd run in there and just FBM them and then go get my workout in the gym. And while I'm at the gym, I see the 20 backpacks I just picked up in person already sold. And obviously, again, all the reasons for getting your cash back much quicker, the payouts are much faster for FBM. So that certainly helped me speed up the process a ton in the beginning because you didn't have to wait, maybe 4 to 6 weeks for the FBA route to get money back from the payouts. But so that was huge. And then also just, I mean, it's just so much easier this time of year to find those deals. It's a lot, obviously, like Q1, typically there's going to be a lot less retail deals, online
Especially
deals.
with LA. Yeah.
So, I mean, it certainly just there, and the network as well. I mean, things are just so infinitely easier when you have 4 to 5 people that are all texting every day and like, hey, I just found this deal here, and so I mean that just made it like unbelievably easier because obviously I wasn't that great at sourcing the first few months.
Yeah. It's impossible to be good at sourcing
I sat.
initially.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember sitting like 2 weeks. I think you would pretty much gave me all my initial leads, like the first 5 10 things I sold. And I went like just reverse source for like 6 hours one day, like one Sunday afternoon, just straight like session. I couldn't find a single thing. And I mean, obviously now like I could go to any website and be like, okay, I already know the coupons here.
That's the big part. right?
Yeah.
Because we're all looking at the same procs at the end of the day. It's just who can
Right.
make stuff good, and that's the big benefits of like getting around other stars. I mean, you've gone significantly further than that. Like 6 months in, we were playing poker
Yeah.
at the Amazon, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
whatever a year later than that, you were in Garrett's wedding, as was I.
Yeah.
Right, we
Yeah.
played, we get some good basketball together and everything too. And so another thing that like I think is pretty cool and that I don't think is talked about enough among Amazon sellers. So you were a college athlete, right? I really, really like sports, always have. And business has been such a good outlet to like
Yeah.
really find something, go attack and work on a goal and practice that delayed gratification and that determination and lack of quitting mindset you have to do well with sports. So can you talk about how those two things kind of related, and how selling Amazon or just business in general for a young man is a great outlet to work on things and get fulfillment from?
Yeah, I think there's just the two main things. One being that it's competitive. I know, like, again, kind of gave that initial story of how I was just about to start my 9 to 5, which I did work the 9 to 5 for a year. I forced myself to get 1 year under my belt before I went all in full time. But I mean, I worked in like a pretty boring corporate finance job. It was the kind of company that you're like, oh man, if I worked here like after college, like I'd definitely be happy. Definitely have it made. And there's just no competitiveness to it. You're just in a routine doing the same things every day, making the same amount of money. And so now it's like, you get really fired up. For me, I get a wholesale purchase order in, where you spend 20, 40, $50,000 in a PO at times. And it's like, oh man, like, you get like a little rush of adrenaline. Like, and that's just the kind of stuff you don't get, working at most 9 to 5 situations at least. And then the other thing is just, learning how to deal with failure. Because obviously when you're playing with your own money, you're playing, with your own business, like you're going to have things where you'll fail and it's all on you. There's no team that you have to help you fix it. You got to figure out how to do it. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like in the beginning, a shipment I'd send it in completely wrong. I'd get charged like twice the amount of money for the inbound. And then, all the products become unprofitable. For FBA shipment, I got to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get back. My first LTL shipment took, I think it was like 3.5 months to check in. And it was like, this was maybe like 6 months after I started. It was like $10,000, $15,000 of buy cost. Like that was a huge percentage of how much money I could deploy every month. Now, even with Walmart, we were just talking about my first WFS shipment is probably lost at this point, I think. My first WFS one.
And
So,
and you can laugh
yeah,
about it, but it's tough to laugh
yeah,
about it when you're new, right? Because you
yeah,
you do this stuff, there's uncertainty, there's
yeah,
no guarantee that it's going to work, but that's where the upside is. If it was super easy, everyone would build a great Amazon business. It's not. It's far from it,
yeah,
right? You got to go through those initial periods of trying stuff, testing things here, and that's the nice thing about getting started this time of year is that you have back to school when demand is through the roof, prices are through the roof.
yeah,
Prime Day deals are coming up, sales tax holidays,
yeah.
early Black Friday sales eventually, Halloween sales, right? October Prime Day, which hopefully they'll do again. And you can go ahead and snag these items discounted, really, really light quantities and FBM them if other people are, and learn in a low risk environment, which is great, and get to, really nicely build a
And
baseline and then be ready to take off November, December.
yeah, if you make a bad buy or if something just tanks for whatever reason, it's like you have so many more opportunity the next day because you don't have to like sit there and harp on it. Find your, get the plum card, really, really run that thing up. And the next day, if like there's a better deal, just go chase that one. It's like, it's not like in Q1 maybe where there's a deal every month and you finally get to that point and then everything tanks like that you buy. So it's definitely the best time of the year to get started just because again, yeah, all the different, you know, deals and promos that these websites are running for OA. So
Yeah, and then in terms of like the number one thing, there's obviously product research. That are number two most important things: product research and who you're talking to. So like other sellers, right? So what goes into successful product research and finding a group of other sellers? Because you've done a great job of that. Most people really understand that they should be doing it, but they don't really know what that actually looks like and how to do it.
yeah, so first I definitely think in terms of building a network, I had a unique strategy. So like, a lot of people build their network really through social media in the beginning and just posting stuff, which I did, but not to a huge extent, like, in the beginning. But I joined the discords and then, there'd be like the tabs in Discord where it was like, first 10K a month tab, like, post a screenshot of your sales, things like that. And so around last July or 2 Augusts ago, like 2022, when I was first starting, I'd go find people that also had just hit 10K a month. And I just,
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's a little less like, I have to just post to everybody and see who wants to hit me up or same thing, I guess, but it's just less, kind of the social media specific effort. So that's how I met, my first like 2 or 3 people kind of just completely in their own networks, and made friends that way for OA in the beginning. Some of those dudes I still talk to now 2 years later. Our business models have obviously been super different over the past 2 years in the way we've kind of moved, but it's still just like, I'm like, hey, it could even be something like account health, like, hey, submitted this like 20 times. You got you got any suggestions for
You hit
me?
me up about something recently with that. Yeah. Did it
Yeah,
get
no,
figured out?
I got denied. Yeah, it went through. I got
Oh,
denied like I think it was
Cliff
27,
knows, man.
27
Which
times.
is so rare, but you're like, man, am I doing this right? You did something
Yeah,
change, right? But you get those questions answered quicker when you got the homies with you, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. So, and that's speaking to the persistence again. I mean, that's not common for sure, but I mean, literally, I think it was like 27 different attempts to ungate one of these brands. I
It's like
just started
how many
selling.
people think a rule changed or that it didn't work and they don't have anyone they can go to about it, right? And the cool part is that part's free, man, right? So like obviously you did the roadmap and you did the coaching program, but a lot of what you do now is people you met through that, like you said, with Discords and stuff, or people like just in our friend group in Pennsylvania that we've built, through Amazon, even though we can't always get you to come to dinner and everything. My boy's pretty busy with having fun and everything. And so you mentioned like really having success with wholesale. So for the people, as we finish up here who are doing OA, what are some tips to initially get the ball rolling with wholesale? Because a lot of people want to do it, but they are really unsure about the best first steps. And you broke right in and did pretty well with it and have done well and are going to continue to. What did that look like getting those initial accounts set up?
So in terms of finding just brands to wholesale and it was a very similar situation actually to reverse sourcing. Is I started on a storefront of or I started on a product page of something that's clearly being wholesaled. You don't see the offer counts jumping way up and down when deals come through. It's consistent offer counts. Pricing is relatively similar, if not has a map on it, where it would just be a completely straight buy box line. So I'd start on a product like that. I'd then go to all the storefronts in that. I try to avoid ones with hundreds of thousands of reviews, but you're looking for, between hundreds and thousands of reviews and opening up that storefront. And then I'm willing to assume that if this person is wholesaling this product, most of their storefront is probably products that they're wholesaling. And then going from there to, obviously, again, I still use a prep center and I try to stay to more high ASP items for that reason. So disqualifying any brands that don't, generally have products that sell over like $15 to $20. Disqualifying anything that doesn't have at least 1 or 2 products selling a couple thousand times a month. And then so at that point you found a brand, it's being wholesaled somewhere. And then the game is just, I go do the Google search. I go directly to the brand page and see what I can find out. If you scroll to the bottom of the brand's website, typically you'll find something interesting there. You'll probably get brick walled just being an Amazon seller without a brick and mortar storefront, but sometimes they'll list all their partner websites or partner wholesalers on that brand or brand
And if
website.
you got there from storefront stalking too, they're getting it somehow. That's the big
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah. So, I mean, and just kind of doing that over and over again, just going to different storefronts, qualifying different brands, and then just reaching out to every possible avenue I can, which is how I've gotten every account that I have thus far, is just, doing it that way and just kind of reverse sourcing wholesale items to a certain extent. And then, again, you reach out to the brand and then you'll find maybe some wholesale distributors that they can say, well, you can't buy from us, but here's our 4 main US distributors. Has been another big thing. And then as well, actually Import Genius, this one hasn't worked super well, but sometimes I've gotten some hits from where some people will still import under the LLC that's on their Amazon page. And if you search that LLC, you can actually bring up exactly what companies they're importing from overseas as well.
Oh, all right. That was some ridiculous game as we for the people who got deep into it. So if you go back 2 years ago, as we finish up here, and tell Dan who was just getting started selling Amazon, or the person who's getting started today, what are some mistakes you can help them avoid, and just overall the things you need them to understand to find success quick, similar to the way you did, because that's obviously a far from common thing.
Yeah, I mean, just immediately trying to build out your network again. That was something I certainly was hesitant to do still in the very, very initial stages.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're like, what do I bring to the table? How do I do this? You want me to post on social media for people that I didn't go to high school with?
Yeah, I was hesitant on that one for sure. I remember you were trying to get me. It took you a few months to get me onto Instagram. Still haven't even
We
really
started making the skits when we hung out. That
Yeah,
helped.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, you just need a network in the beginning. I mean, you're just making things. It's like it's said so much, but you're just making things so much infinitely harder on yourself if you have no one you can bounce questions off of. Yeah, and even if it's not like, at first, like, hey, we're sharing all our leads. It's still at least just like someone that you can be like, yeah, and it's still the competitiveness too. Like your friend, you meet someone, you're talking to them every day, and they're like, yeah, man, I just hit like 2K yesterday in sales, and it's like, damn, like I want to hit 2K in sales.
Yeah.
Even the competitiveness like pushes you a little further. And then yeah, just going deeper on buys and stuff, and kind of the same way the competitiveness in your network. It's like you'll run a sale, you'll be like, I just spent X amount of money in this sale, and like it's like, man, I'm falling behind. I need to like catch back up and stay on path with everybody, because anyone that's doing this is going to be have a good trajectory in life. Like if they're really going out of their own way and trying to build their own business like this, like it's going to be people who are going to be winners over the long term. So just try to stay in the loop, try to hold yourself accountable in that sense, and you'll be there's no reason you won't succeed as well. So
Sir, that's what I'm talking about, man. So merchant fulfilled, finding the homies, right? Starting right now is a great opportunity, just because like back to school Q4 coming up, or even just making progress if you are currently selling is great. If you guys got questions for Dan or I, let us know down below. Make sure you follow the boy at Twitter as well, or just Instagram.
still haven't. It's been
Okay.
2 years. Still haven't got me on Twitter yet, but maybe it's coming. Just Instagram for now.
Dan Scales AMZ, and y'all go check out. There's a couple good skits we made over like especially last year, which I don't know why we didn't do one. Got the man Dave Trades on the channel today. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
So I was seeing all your posts on Twitter, those big, beautiful orange bars. Tell everyone what you did so far in quarter 1 and year to date.
Yeah, quarter 1, I did 70,000, but after bills and everything, it came out to like 60,000 or something like that.
And that's profit, right? So it's probably about $250,000 in revenue for the first 3 months of the year.
Right, yeah.
So pretty cool. Now I know a couple years ago you were working at Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
So stuff can change pretty quickly. What made you actually want to get into selling on Amazon?
Well, I had some experience with drop shipping before. I was drop shipping on Facebook for a while. That's how I initially grew my capital. Well, I'll go into it deeper than that. So I started off drop shipping on Facebook Marketplace. Grew my capital. I think at the peak, it was me and my brothers. We were doing maybe like 10K profit a month at the peak. Eventually, Facebook shut that down. They blocked our IPs because we had like a crazy operation going with like VAs from the Philippines.
I remember you telling me that.
Like 10 VAs from the Philippines logging in on different Facebook accounts. But they eventually shut that down. So we took that capital and tried to like go into the big boy game of trucking, right? Because we thought, hey, we're so great. We can take all this money that we built and we could take it into trucking, because our thought about trucking was, okay, I mean, how hard can it be, right? I mean, we're very optimistic. You take money, you hire drivers, you get a truck, you get a trailer, you run the trailer, you make money. That's what we thought. We were wrong by a long shot, because we got into trucking probably in the worst time economically, right? The freights weren't that good. They didn't pay that well. Gas was like really expensive. We were paying like $4,500 insurance on one truck, which was pretty bad. So eventually, after like 3 or 4 months, we were like, okay, this is not going to work out in the long run. We need to cut our losses as fast as possible. So we did that. And then we were like, okay, what do we do now? Because trucking took like 80% of our capital from drop shipping, right? So from there, I think we went into trying different business ventures. Like I think we went pretty big into like carrier companies. So like we went around basically hitting up different driving companies. Basically, it's like DoorDash almost, but these people deliver like medical supplies or something like that. So we went heavy into that. We drove for them for a while, and then once we got like kind of like in with like the higher ups, we're basically just like, hey, we don't want to drive. We want to run this thing. Like, give us a region where we can manage different drivers, and we kind of took the responsibility of that. So that's how we made another source of income without actually having to work. So we built some capital up with that, and then we just saw Amazon. I saw your videos online. I also had a buddy who was doing Amazon as well. So I was like, this is kind of like what we did before with drop shipping, because that's what got us started anyway. Like we were familiar with that, we were good at it, and we were just like, okay, I mean, why not try it out? And that's how I got started with Amazon.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's such a high translation between people who did like sneaker reselling when they were a teenager or young adult and like Facebook Marketplace drop shipping or eBay and everything.
Right.
And Amazon's kind of like the bigger version of that, that's scalable, that can be a real business if you put the work in and
Right.
everything. So when was that you actually started off specifically on Amazon?
This was last year, around just before September, so like late August. Yeah.
Damn, a
Around
bunch
that.
of legends came out of that era, man. That was right when Aaron got started. Parker
Yeah,
got
yeah. I started last year.
crazy, man.
2020.
Yeah, right. And you just slowly you grow it up over time and such, right? What when did you get your first sale?
I got my first sale pretty quickly. So I took a different route when it came to Amazon. So what I did was I tried to exploit VAs because I thought that was the bright idea. So what I did was I tried to hire VAs. I basically posted something on online jobs. I was basically just like, hey, I have some capital that I want to invest into this. And I knew no knowledge about Amazon, which is a red flag, right? I didn't know how to source. I wasn't a master at my craft. I was just gonna hire VAs to do all the work for me and basically learn as the train starts moving. Big mistake. Obviously, I learned from that. But I got my first sale pretty quickly. I hired them. I probably got my sale within maybe a day or so.
Oh, so you were getting stuff FBM up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super smart. And the cool thing is Dave's in New Jersey. So any of you guys who are really coastally located, East Coast, West Coast, naturally you're going to get more buy box share just because your products are either going to be located, if you're FBMing, closer to the customers, or they're going to be at an FBA center close to the customer. So if you're coastal, you have an advantage with FBM in general too. And what would you say was like the big moment where you're like, holy crap, like this really works? I assume it was probably in December or January once you started hitting those big months.
I think yeah, it was around after I joined the program actually. Because before then, like I said, I want to touch on what I did before then too, because I made the mistake of hiring those VAs and I lost a couple thousand dollars. But then after that, I was just like, okay. I mean, I didn't really see Amazon working, but then I joined your group. I started networking with a lot of people, and that's one of the most important things because I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't network. So I started reaching out to the Parkers, the Aarons. I went inside of your chat. I reached out to literally everyone. They were inviting me into different groups, and I was learning. And then from there, I learned how to source. I learned how to analyze products, and then it kind of took off from there. Into December, I think, to be honest with you, I think I would have had a bigger December had I did all that prior.
Oh, of course.
I kind of did it too late, but it was still better than nothing because those connections helped me buy a ton of stuff. I learned a ton. And then from there, heading into January, I was like, okay, I can kind of run this up if I just keep looping the same things over. It's basically buying product, you sell it for a profit. That's basically the bottom line. And once I realized it was that simple, I was just like, okay, we can run this up.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the more numbers someone does on Amazon, the less complicated they make it seem because it comes natural to them once you build a skill. But you got to go ahead and build a skill. It's like the meme of like the guy who's like really slow, the guy who's really smart, and then the guy in the middle. The guy who's slow is like, I buy and sell products. The guy at the top's like, I buy and sell products, and then the guy in the middle, all this weird
Yeah, all these weird systems. Yeah.
Right. And then you look at the people who are doing the most with online arbitrage. They got a few core websites. They hammer them. They know when the deals are going on. They got a couple friends they do it with. Can you talk more about the community side of things? Because that I think is by far the most underexploited edge by sellers, because I can typically see how successful someone's going to be based on the other sellers they talk to on a day-to-day basis. Can you dig in further on how that's been helpful for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually my prime group. Shout out Todd. Shout out Tim. Venus, but those are my three guys that I've currently been working with for the past 3-4 months or so. But it's very important to have a group because they just help you spend money. There's days I don't source anything or I can't find anything, and I'll look in the group and it's just like they'll help me spend a couple $1,000s, whatever it may be, vice versa. there's things that may come out that I might not see, and they'll ping it in the chat like, hey, this happened with Amazon. Hey, new fees here. It's just overall great to have, because it's kind of just like, it makes it fun because you have other guys that you're doing this with.
Big thing.
Two, it makes it less stressful because you can kind of share the same problems together. And with that too, you can kind of grow together because it's four of you guys all experiencing different things at different times. So you can kind of come together and like spread the knowledge, spread mistakes, so the others don't make the same mistakes. So it's very important to get in a group, especially if you're trying to do online arbitrage.
Of course, bro. And the cool thing is that part's free, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, bro, getting around other sellers, man. Like, I know you and I met on Twitter, and you were seeing my stuff or YouTube
Right.
or whatever, right? You know, and that's what we're doing now is we're trying to, you know, build leverage and bring people to us, bring people into our ecosystem, because that provides opportunity for us, right? Selfishly too. You know, hopefully provide some value along the way too. Can you dig into some of the challenges you ran into when scaling quick, whether it's like cash flow issues, finding enough products? Like, what were the hard parts about the journey thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the hardest parts, well, it's not really hard. I mean, if you have all your invoices, so like in the beginning, I wasn't really organized. So let's just say, for example, if I got an IP or whatever, I'd have to go scrambling for, you know, invoices and everything or whatnot. I guess another difficulty I had in the beginning was not understanding or not mastering my craft. I think that really slowed me down just because I couldn't spend money like I would have loved to. I was hesitant on some buys. I just wish I just locked myself in a room, because it doesn't take long to learn how to source. It just takes some effort. It could take you like a day, just some hard effort. You sit there at the computer and you just put in the work, and you'll learn how to source in a day. Obviously, as time goes on, more experience, you'll know. You know, you could just click through different ASINs. You could tell whether it's a buy or not within maybe like 15 seconds. But I think those two were like my top two difficulties when it came to scaling.
Yeah, and the main thing, really the only problems you can have, right? It's the Amazon side of things, right? And then capital and then cash flow as well. You were lucky, so was I. We had other stuff going on prior to doing Amazon, which gave us kind of trust in online business. Well, I think that's a huge thing, man, right? Both trusting the business model and trusting yourself that you can actually do it, right? And that's the cool thing, man, is once you start hanging out with more Amazon sellers, you're like, all right, like, you know, these are the type of dudes I would have been friends with in high school or whatever. You know what I mean? Right now, they might live 10 states away or on the other side of the country. But the cool thing is in the modern era, right, we can just, you know, sit here on Zoom and talk to you.
It's insane how that works. Like, people underestimate the power of the internet. Like, some of, you know, the best leads or some of the best, I guess, ASINs that I've had came from someone across the country. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. We just kind of like, hey, you're young, I'm young. We're both doing this. Let's work together.
And the key there is, right, what someone immediately does, right? Say you ask me a question, like just anyone watching this on Twitter, right? The first thing I do is click your profile. And in your case, if someone goes to your profile, they can clearly see that you live this life. Therefore, you get a better answer than most people do, for whether you know, right or wrong. That's just kind of the way it is and such, right? So when you're in the mix, like, so much opportunity gets to find you and such. So obviously started out doing online arbitrage primarily. What's the plan for the next couple of years? Are you going to stick with OA, do some wholesale stuff too? What you got going on with that?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the middle of like trying to launch, maybe in the next 2 to 3 months, maybe launch my first private label product.
Ooh, I didn't even know about that, but you should have let us know on the timeline, dude, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I posted about it maybe a month ago, but
hey, volume, baby, you know what I mean? Uncle Fliss might not see it, you know, same thing over and over again.
Yeah, so that's what I've been working on right now. Just for longevity, I noticed like Amazon is, you know, I don't know what changes they're making, but they are knocking down on like sellers, and you can still do away, right? But I just think like long term for me personally, I think I want to establish some brands. That way, I can kind of like stay away from Amazon's bad side. Because, you know, brands could strike IPs on you for no given reason, right?
Yep, they absolutely could. Yep.
Yeah. So I've had IPs where the Keep It Chart wouldn't even show IPs, IP alerts, or anything like that. So I just think for me, long term, it's better if I just establish some brands. I'm still going to be selling OA in the hot seasons like Q4, back to school. But that's my plan for the next like 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, and that's the problem, man, is so many people try to go into private label and wholesale from day one when they don't already know how it works. They might
Right.
not have a bunch of cash or war chest ready to roll. They already trust the model. You did it the perfect way, right? Where you're good at OA. Now, perpetually, every year, there's going to be products you can go ahead and buy. You
Right.
can't unsee some of the deals. You can't unsee some of the wealth that
Exactly.
they grab. Now you can take some more shots because you got skills, which is a great backup plan, and cash, which is a similarly good backup plan, having both of those as well. Right,
Exactly.
too, which is pretty neat. So if you could go back, let's say 6, 7, 8 months, right, to when you were getting started, what would you tell yourself as a beginner that would have helped you move a lot quicker?
I think if I would have went back 6, 7 months, I would have said, okay, get on Twitter, network, get on social media, network, put your face out there, tweet about anything, because that's the power of growing when you're a small seller, right? Like in the beginning, and I know a lot of small sellers have this problem because I've had this problem. I would network to people, but since I didn't have a face, they would give me like 2-word answers.
Yeah.
They wouldn't really reply to me, and that's not on them. That's on me, right? I have nothing to show for it. I mean, I reply personally, but like I know other people, it's not worth their time to reply to a no face or someone who really has no structure to their social media accounts. So I would definitely say have a profile picture, obviously. Tweet about anything, whether it's, I don't know, going to USPS, tweet about it. It doesn't matter. All you need is some traction. All you need is some type of following for people to respond to you, right? Because as I started posting more, I didn't even have to message people. They message me. And then that's how you start relationships. That's how you start, connections. And yeah.
Yeah, different stuff just starts to find you. You start to be just getting notified of random stuff going on. Nothing hurts with that, man. When you're talking about either the power of, like Mr. Beast talks about this all the time. Either you got to find the information, or you can work with other people that are on the same mission. And one of those is way more fun. It's a lot less work, right? And it's a lot more profitable too.
Exactly.
So speaking of that, brother, as we finish up, so super impressed with everything you've done. Where can people go follow you on social media as well?
Yeah, I'm only on Twitter. I'm not really on any other platform, but you can follow me at Dave Trades _ on Twitter.
Yeah, so go check out the boy right there. We're saying get some really good engagement on those more storytelling types of posts. A lot of good stuff coming soon. So we expect to see some updates on the private label and some more big, beautiful orange bars, back to school Q4 right around the corner and such. All right, guys, so now you saw a bunch of successful students I've helped actually get started selling on Amazon. I also want you guys to learn from some really successful 7-figure sellers that I'm actually really good friends with from over the years, just being in the Amazon community. Probably some creators you might already follow, and definitely you should go follow all of them after this on social media as well. They put out a ton of good Amazon content as well. So let's take a look at a bunch of my friends that actually came up with selling on Amazon, different other Amazon seller creators sharing their #1 tip to become a successful Amazon seller in 2025.
Guys, my name is John Mascarello, aka Side Hustle Experiment on Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else. I also do the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. I've been friends with Miles for about 5 years at this point, so thank you for him for inviting me to do this video. I've sold multi 7-figures on Amazon. I started with books, and then I ramped up to bulk books, and then went to online arbitrage, which is my current business model right now. I do pretty much all online arbitrage to prep. So one of my biggest tips for beginners just getting started, I'm going to give you a couple pieces of advice. Number one, it's play your own game. You're going to see some people when you first get started, or whether you just got started, you're going to see people putting up some massive numbers, doing, 30, 40, 50, 60, $100,000 a month. Don't let that intimidate you. Let that motivate you. And know what your goal is. If your goal is to make an extra $1,000, $2,000, that's fine. Just do that. Just because my goal is to do more than that doesn't mean you should be changing your goal to meet me. And it also, if you have a clear goal and what you want from this business, it makes it much easier to make sound decisions. And with that play your own game, know how much you are willing to put in to leverage versus not. You do not want to be over leveraged, especially when you are newer. The rules are a little bit stricter than they used to be. So the last thing you want to do is put a lot of money on cards if for untested inventory or brands that you may get gated in later on, just be careful, play your own game. Number 2, master Keepa. Keepa is the be all end all. If you know how to read Keepa graphs, you know how to use Keepa product finder and Keepa product viewer, you are going to be golden. Those are that tool alone, plus SellerAmp, of course, are going to be the main tools you need. If you could read a Keepa chart and master reading Keepa, you are going to find a ton of profitable products, especially if you master Keepa Product Finder. And number 3, network. Get involved in the community, get involved in a group. That was what really helped me go from books to online arbitrage. I made a lot of friends sharing my book journey on social media. So when I was ready to make the switch, I had a ton of people I could text or DM on Instagram asking for help with online arbitrage, and that really jump started me. I also joined some groups. Groups are a great way to find stuff. What sites should you buy from? What brands should you buy? What things are hot right now? So kind of being a close-knit group, meeting people in that group, getting on Zoom calls, doing all that stuff is a great way to do that. So those are kind of my biggest tips for beginners. 1, play your own game. 2, master Keepa. And 3, network, get to know the community. And I hope you crush Amazon. And thanks for Miles for inviting me to do this.
Hey guys, this is Tanya from Madrill Finds. My husband and I have been selling on Amazon for over 6 years now, and selling on Amazon has completely changed our life. If you're watching this, you're probably interested in selling on Amazon and you're probably not sure where to start. My number 1 Amazon tip for beginners is to just start. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate things. Just go in, dive straight in, and be ready for the ride. No one has it figured out when they first start. We for sure didn't. We learned along the way. But I do want to tell you this, is to believe in yourself, take that first step and open up your Amazon seller account. Watch YouTube videos like this and learn as you go. The more you actually do in real life, the more you will learn. You'll figure out what works for you and what doesn't. You'll get better at finding profitable products. So take this as your sign to start your Amazon FBA journey. There will never be a perfect time, so get out there and make it happen. Happy hunting.
What is going on, guys? It is Garrett, a lot Amazon. I've been selling on Amazon for the better part of the last 4 years. I talk about this stuff daily, put out content, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Anywhere you can consume content, you will likely see me. And I've seen hundreds of people succeed in this space, just as I've seen hundreds of people fail. And the one thing I will say, the kind of common denominator amongst all the folks that I see crush it quickly is that they're willing to get uncomfortable, as well as they're willing to execute a significant amount of patience to really develop their business, to really get good at this stuff, right? Getting comfortable meeting people, talking to the people, asking questions, right? Being one in the community, just as executing patience, not expecting their business to be 7 figures overnight, but consistently consuming content from all of us who talk about this stuff daily, and consistency within the craft, and they will see their business grow.
Hey, I'm Amanda from All Out Thompsons. I started my journey 3 years ago with very little money to my name. I'm also disabled with physical limitations, so it's been a little bit more challenging for me, but giving up just wasn't an option for me. One of my biggest keys to my growth has been my tenacity and my network. I'm not talking about my friends and family who don't get it. I'm talking about the uncomfortable circles I put myself in the Amazon community. My number 1 tip for new sellers is to start small. You don't need a warehouse full of products and thousands of dollars in inventory right out of the gate. Just start small, test the waters with 1 or 2 products and see how they perform. A bonus tip would be to invest in your education, because that naturally comes with a network. And it's better to go at it with others doing the same as you than to do it alone. You've got this.
My name is Sadiq, and I've been selling on Amazon for around 2 years now, and I've done close to $3 million in sales. My biggest advice to new sellers or people who are just getting into Amazon is to talk and network with as much sellers as humanly possible, whether that's hopping on Zooms, reaching out to people on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, whatever you got to do. You got to talk to as much sellers as humanly possible, because they're going to have some information that you don't know, and that's going to help grow your business. And then you're probably going to have some information they don't have yet, and that's going to grow their business as well. So those mutual beneficial relationships are super, super, super helpful. in scaling your Amazon business, because it only takes one brand or one supplier or even one ASIN to double, if not triple, your profits within Amazon. So that's huge. And another thing that you should focus on is inventory turnover. Just buying really, really, really good and quick moving inventory is going to help you make a lot more money in the long run, because you're not worried about these slow moving inventories. Yeah, it could be good ROI, but it's okay to take lesser ROI and have like a lot of velocity on that listing and a ton of turnover, because that's going to make you a lot more money in the long run. So that's my advice.
So now you guys know a bunch of tips from successful Amazon sellers, and clearly you're very serious if you're this deep into the free course. My number one tip to find success selling on Amazon, and my really secret sauce that I don't think enough people take advantage of, is going to be networking and getting super active in the community. These are a bunch of great friends I've been able to make selling Amazon. Literally about a year ago, Will was a student of mine. He's now doing over 6 figures a month. Garrett from the Buy Box Bandits podcast. We do live streams all the time. We literally met my first week of online arbitrage 3 years ago. Parker right here, he just had a 50K in sales day. You guys know Aaron. He's always on the live streams with me as well. 0 to handling time on Twitter. And literally all of these guys I met just online in the Amazon community. They were students of mine, for example. A lot of them, we just became friends through the community and the shared topic of selling Amazon. This was literally at Garrett All Out Amazon's wedding back in April, and literally like Nick, Max, Jimmy, Corey, etc. They all just had originally seen my content, what I was doing, documenting my journey selling Amazon. Now I've literally been able to make lifelong friends. And then this picture here has literally like 15 out of the 16, however many people in here, literally we just met through the online Amazon selling community, guys. And I know it's a little awkward to think of like, okay, I'm going to meet random people and solve problems together. Honestly, though, that's just how the world works in 2025. There's these free communication tools, and there's really no reason not to use them to find cool people to solve problems with, have fun with, make money with, etc. And well-connected sellers enjoy way less mistakes, way more opportunity, and honestly just way more fun. Because if you think of the stuff you've done in your life that's been most fun, typically it's with people you like. So how do you think selling on Amazon, even if obviously it's to make money, not just have fun, is going to be that enjoyable thing to do when you're just sitting at the computer like most Amazon sellers do it? Meanwhile, the people that make the most money, have the most fun, avoid the most mistakes, are all working together in the community. So guys, literally what I did originally years ago was back in 2019, when I was just selling used books on Amazon, I started the Flips for Miles Instagram because I saw a ton of stuff from Gary Vee talking about documenting and using social media as a tool to connect and build with different people. And then in 2020, before I was even doing online arbitrage, I started my Twitter page as well. Now I've amassed over 68,000 followers on Twitter and over 100,000 followers on Instagram. I literally have posted 1,500 times, for example. So I've obviously significantly overdone it compared to what most people do, but I, have aspirations with my Amazon seller software, for example, too, and everything like that. And the bare minimum, like what you should do is go look at my Twitter page, and you'll see I'm always retweeting, replying to different people that are posting pictures of their shipments and stuff like that. And all of those people are giving themselves a chance to build digital leverage and find cool people that, you're probably, unfortunately, not just going to find them walking around your small town. Therefore, you have two choices. Either one, never work with any cool online business people, any cool Amazon sellers, or two, use the free communication tools and free communities out there to meet and find people to connect with and build with. Literally coast to coast, guys. I've gotten together with a ton of other Amazon sellers in person. This was back in Santa Monica, California in May. There's Justin, Matt Vega, Hish. You guys might follow Hish on Instagram. He's another great Amazon seller creator that's super active. Leo right there. And literally we're just able to meet through selling on Amazon right here. And then this is at the Miami Sellers Conference, guys, back in March with Jazz Hustles. You guys should definitely check out her page as well. My boy Fields of Profit is one of my partners at SellerAmp and Boxem. And then Al, the actual founder of SellerAmp too, guys. So don't sleep on the Amazon community. But what actually goes into networking and how do you actually do it? Because sure, we all know, right, your net worth equals your network, right? But how do you find cool Amazon sellers to work with? Free online communities, doesn't cost any money, right? Instagram, X, our free Discord, for example, that's linked below, wherever you consume content. My biggest piece of advice, guys, is don't create stuff, just document what you're doing. Social media algorithms are good. You don't need some crazy fancy setup. Scroll back to my Instagram in 2019 and 2020, for example, and you'll very quickly see you don't need any fancy setup. I literally posted the day I got my first Amazon sale, and I just trusted what Gary Vee was telling me, that like you should be using social media to your advantage and finding people beyond just, the people in your life currently and everything. The community is really accepting and fun, but if nobody knows you, nothing can happen. Therefore, you have to get over yourself and put yourself out there. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Does it really, really enhance things and give you massive upside to find future opportunities beyond just potentially selling on Amazon? Of course. And I've just noticed, guys, the more I share, the more opportunity finds me. Now, you're probably thinking, right? Okay, I don't have time for networking. In my opinion, you don't have time not to do it, because all the Amazon sellers I know that make the most money, have the most fun, tend to be the best connected. And the sellers I know that have to do things the most time consuming way on their own, that make the most mistakes, that have to find all the opportunities just based on what they're doing, don't put effort into the community and everything. So ironically, the more time you put into building presence in the community and finding cool sellers to work with, the less you actually have to work and the more money you make. It's pretty interesting right there, right? Well-connected sellers work less, make more, have more fun, and avoid a lot of mistakes. On top of networking, as well as just, having watched the good bit of the free course by now too, guys, other ways you can get value from me for free is going to be the Buy Box Bandits podcast. I actually literally started out with All Out Amazon, who I literally just met on Instagram back in the day. And then Daniel, who actually built Boxum, our shipping listing software and everything. We do the Buy Box Bandits. We have over 100 episodes on all your favorite podcast platforms. And literally, guys, every Buy Box Bandits guest talks about how important the community and network is, guys. You're the average of the 5 Amazon sellers you spend the most time talking to. And if that's nobody, things are going to be way harder, because the people you're competing against are people like me that are having Amazon seller conversations all day. Literally from right when I started, I really was deep into the community. And that's one of my biggest recommendations, guys, is get on Twitter, get on Instagram, document your journey, find people on Discord. And overall, your results are determined by what Amazon sellers you talk to. And if that's no one, you're going to struggle, because you're competing against people that are super well connected. And you might feel like you have nothing to share. That's why we don't create. That's why we document. Share any mistakes you made, right? Think of what you needed, because if you even start selling Amazon, you're further along compared to, a lot of people watching this video that haven't sold anything on Amazon yet. So you got to keep that in mind, guys, is how far you come, even just getting the ball rolling right there. And you'll notice too, there's so few people actually posting stuff about selling on Amazon too, that you literally just can barge right in the community and really build a presence easy just by putting in any effort and being consistent. So definitely follow all the accounts of the sellers you guys saw in those interviews as well. And then also just follow my pages too on Instagram and Twitter, and just look at who I interact with, who I'm retweeting. Go to the recommended pages on mine, and then find all the, recommended pages similar to mine right there. And you'll just start getting passively introduced to a ton of free game. And then the graduated level of that is having your own page where you're really active. We also do Seller Amp Seller Hour every Tuesday, which is on YouTube live on the Fields of Profit, Seller Amp, and Flister Miles pages. So if you guys want to get some live free game, go ahead and check that out. Put that on calendar every Tuesday to help you guys sell on Amazon. So you can literally come ask your questions live. It's a good time. And if you guys have really liked what you've seen so far and you want more direct help personally from me, now is a great time to apply for my coaching program, guys. If you're interested in personalized help directly from me, you want to get on Zoom one-on-one together and live source, you want to be around other Amazon sellers crushing the game, group calls every single week, you want to be plugged in on different leads, different opportunities, now is a perfect time to apply for that at the link in the description. We'll pop up a whole bunch of our insane student results. We've had over 50 sellers hit over $100,000 per month. Obviously, that's not typical, but it is a fact of people I've been able to help doing that over the years in my coaching program. Some specific case studies I love are my boy Alex, who's making over $6,000 in profit a month part-time while working in real estate. My man Dave right here, Dave Trades, he went from working at Chick-fil-A to making over $20,000 a month in profit with online arbitrage and wholesale working with me. Kim right here, Kim's an absolute legend. She got started in July, and in her second month selling Amazon, did over $42K in revenue and over $9,000 in profit part-time as a stay-at-home mom. Super impressed by Kim as well. My man Thomas right here, he started back in April, and just 6 months later was able to replace his full-time income out in Minnesota and make almost $10,000 a month in profit flipping name brand products with online arbitrage. And my boy Ashad right here, he's a part-time seller, a recent college grad, and he scaled up his Amazon business, and he just texted me the other day that he had his first $10,000 profit month as well. Super proud of him. And what goes in it, if it makes sense for you to go ahead and join my coaching program, is really just how serious you are and how hands-on you want help with stuff. And then obviously you guys just watch a ton of free game right there. But if you're really interested in unparalleled one-on-one access to me, you want to be around other Amazon sellers crushing the game, you want all your questions answered fast, that can be a really, really beneficial thing for you that can make your 2025 absolutely great. If you're looking to start your Amazon business or scale up your Amazon business that's already existing right there, you might be struggling, you might be looking for the next step right there and want someone who has a proven track record of making that happen for lots of people throughout my career. We'll pop a whole bunch of actually more student results on the screen now. We have an absolute insane amount of them right there. So take a look at that. That's the first link in the description if you're looking for personalized help directly from me scaling up your Amazon business via my coaching program. And overall, guys, congrats on finishing the free course right now. But all of this means nothing if you don't act on it. So I do want to make it really easy for you. You might have said, okay, I got a little bit of information overload. What do I actually need to do to get started ASAP? So the first step, guys, is going to be getting your Amazon seller account set up right there. The next step is going to be getting your Boxum and SellerAmp free trials, as well as your Keepa subscription in terms of softwares. If you need a little rerun on any of that stuff, luckily there's full timestamps at the link in the description. So you can go back through any of the free course as you see fit. Go ahead and get your free shipping supplies on the way from USPS and your free shipping labels on the way from UPS, as well as basic poly mailers in 9x12 and 12x15 from Amazon. I'd recommend getting started with merchant fulfilled. However, if you do want to do FBA as well, right from the get-go, you'll need those FN SKU labels, as well as you're going to need those clear poly bags from Amazon as well, and then boxes you can just get from Walmart. Once your account's actually open, unlock a bunch of AutoOneGate brands via the AutoOneGate list that's available for free download in the description. And then you want to hit up your local discount store, start scanning some retail arbitrage stuff with SellerAmp, and really, really dive headfirst into online arbitrage, focus specifically on storefront stalking. And remember, guys, you don't find items good, you make them good. So make sure you guys go back through that manufacturing margin section and think through, okay, can I get any gift cards? Is there tax exempt on this website? Are any big coupons I can use, for example, right there? And load up on your first few test orders, get them ungated if need be, and hit the ground running. And if you guys want formal help, make sure you take a look at that link in the description for my coaching program. You see a bunch of other people we've helped on the application page. Put in your information. We can see if it makes sense. And also, guys, remember, ask any questions below in the comments. I'm in there helping you guys out. Like, subscribe, and keep up with my content. Join our free Discord at the link in the description. Check out my live streams. We got SellerAmp Seller Hour every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern on the SellerAmp channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Flips for Miles. Keep a long-term mindset, hit the gas pedal, and go build the life you want. Business models don't fail. People do. Business models don't succeed. People do. Internet money is sitting right there for the taking. I'm on your guys' side. I'm rooting for you. You let me know how I can help. Make sure to subscribe for more. Let me know any questions in the comments. Congrats on finishing up the free course. And if you want more free Amazon seller game, check out this playlist right here of some other videos. Check out the Buy Blocks Bandits podcast. Really appreciate you watching. It's absolutely a blessing to be able to provide this information to you. Time to go make some internet money. Be great.